Good evening and welcome to the Zoning Board of Appeals, June 30, 2022 meeting. Time being 7 o'clock, we do have some administrative matters to take care of. The first matter, we're required by our rules and regulations to elect officers in the first meeting after June 1st. And what the rules and regs require is that only the regular members of the board vote on that matter. And that is consistent with my reading of Chapter 48, Section 12, which says the members of the board. And then later on goes to talk about how a board could have associate members. So I read that to mean only the regular members. At my request, Diana spoke with Bob Cutler, and he said that Kim and I could just go ahead and make the decision. I think it would be appropriate, because Dave's not here unless he's zooming in. No, he's not, to delay that. I don't think the decision that we're going to make, that you and I would have made, would be much different than, or any different than what we would make with Dave here. But I think just out of courtesy to him, we wait until, hopefully he'll be here at the next meeting and make the decisions at that point in time. Okay? Mm-hmm. Second item is the minutes from our May 19 meeting. Anybody have any questions? Someone want to make a motion to approve?
Motion to approve minutes from May 19th.
Second it?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay. We need to wait till 7:05, because that's when the public hearing for Mr. Silva is notified. So we need to wait until that point, just a couple of minutes. If you're here for, and I imagine most of you are here for the Morse St 40B, we have 3 applications that we have to hear before that point. I'm guessing it's going to take a half an hour to 45 minutes. So if anybody wants to enjoy the weather outside, feel free to do so. We won't start that if anybody is outside, or if you all decide to go outside, we won't start that aspect, that matter, until such time as we let you know. And depending on how long it takes for these 3 applications, we may want to take a couple-minute break before we start the Morse St matter. Okay? So I'm going to go by my watch, and I got about another 2 minutes.
Yep.
So the reason we're sitting and waiting, just for informative purposes, when we notice a public hearing, we can't start that public hearing before the time in which it's been notified. More often than not, we start it after the time that it's been notified, but we can't start it before. So because the first public hearing is noticed for 7:05 p.m., and notwithstanding the fact that that clock is off, we have to wait until 7:05 on the basis of my watch, which is about another 40 or 50 seconds. Okay, the time being 7:05 p.m., we have the continued public hearing in which Anthony Alex Silva seeks a variance under Section 4.1.1, Table 4-1 of the Code of the Town of Foxborough, Massachusetts, Chapter 275 zoning, to allow the construction of an attached garage to a single-family home that would result in such home having a side yard setback of 8 feet, where 15 feet is required. Property is located at 6 McNamara Way in the R40 Residential and Agricultural District. It is not located in any restrictive overlay district. Mr. Silva, you want to? As you may recall from our last meeting, to my left at that point in time was Dave Brown. Unfortunately, Dave has a medical situation, and apparently he's not Zooming in, so he is not here.
Okay.
Kurt was participating in the meeting on Zoom at that point in time. So what I'm going to do for this hearing is to appoint Lorraine to be the voting member together with Kim and me. Okay?
Yes, thank you.
And the first thing we need to do is to reopen the public portion of the hearing. Motion?
I move to open the public portion of the meeting.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, should I recap from last month or just?
Wherever you want to go.
Okay, I'll just do a quick recap. We're looking to do an addition on our house. We've got a growing family. We have 4 children. The oldest is 8. We're likely to have more. So we're looking to add additional living space to our home. And on one side of our home, there's wetlands, so we can't add on that side. And I didn't have a clear plot plan last month documenting where those wetlands are, so I submitted that a couple weeks ago. And that's drawn on the plot plan now. And you can see already part of the house today is actually within the 100-foot buffer zone from the wetland. So any addition on that side of the house would be within that buffer zone. So we'd like to do the addition on the other side of the house where it's drawn on the plot plan. That would not be within the buffer zone. It would be quite a distance away from the wetlands. But the problem there is there's not enough distance from the property line where it is. It's, as you mentioned, it's 8 feet from the property line, not 15 feet setback. So we're looking for a variance to allow us to do the addition on that side of the home.
So first of all, thank you very much for giving us the revised plan. Did you and the architect at all talk about, we talked last time about flipping?
We did. We talked about flipping it, and there were a couple of reasons why we don't want to do that. The main one is right now in our garage, we struggle to open the doors with strollers and whatnot. So we have 2 minivans because the doors don't open out; they open in. And we'd like to get SUVs down the road, something like that. And width will make a very big difference to be able to pull the cars in and open the doors. So if we were to do a narrower garage but deeper, we would have similar width to what we have right now. So it wouldn't give us that space. And then secondly, just aesthetically, with the garage coming out and especially forward because of the septic and propane in the back, it would have to come out. It wouldn't be attractive driving down the street. You would just see a giant garage coming out from the house. It wouldn't look good for us, for our neighbors.
Where exactly is the septic system?
It is behind where the addition would be. So we would have to push it back a couple feet from where it is as right now.
Kim, Lorraine, Kurt, go ahead with questions.
So you would be redoing your septic system as part of this?
Yes, correct.
And did you talk at all about the possibility of going further into the wetland buffer zone at all with the?
We haven't investigated down that road what kind of exceptions we would need to go on that side.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so you're saying that you'd prefer not to rotate because aesthetically, you had mentioned last time as well that it wouldn't, aesthetically, it would change it.
Yes.
But you're saying that if you flipped it, it wouldn't give you enough width either for each of the bays.
Correct. It would be similar width as what we have with our garage today.
Okay, let me see. So I seem to recall from last time, and please tell me if I'm remembering this correctly or not, that there's a portion there, so it looks as if it would be sort of a line here with the new garage, then it would jog in, and then it would jog back out to the existing, what is
Yes.
currently the garage.
That's right.
And if I'm remembering correctly, that little jog in would be an additional bathroom.
Correct.
Okay.
That's right.
And so that bathroom actually adds an extra approximately 6 feet.
Yes.
Am I remembering that correctly?
Yep, that's right. Yep.
So if that bathroom wasn't there, then we don't really have an issue.
It would, yeah, it would be very close to be 14 feet. There, the bathroom was an addition when we had that little inlet in.
Right.
The house would look very, very long without that, I don't know what to call it, inlet, where it goes in.
Right.
That broke it up a bit, so when you look at it, it doesn't just look like a really long house from one end to the other.
And I completely understand that. I'm just wondering whether, as we're asking you these questions, as we mentioned last time, it's not only about what you're asking us to do, it's the next 20 people that are going to come and ask to build within 8 feet
Yep,
of their side yard.
yep.
So it's not, it's this one and going into the future.
Yep.
All right, that's all the questions I have for the moment.
Kurt?
On the site plan, there's, it's shown a driveway. Is that the existing driveway now?
It is, yes.
Is that hardscaped or is it paved or what is that material?
Um,
Is it like a blacktop, like concrete or?
Oh, blacktop.
Okay.
Yeah. Right now, we pull down the driveway and you turn right into the garage. With this addition, you would just pull down the same driveway and just drive straight into the garage.
And do you know the distance? I mean, I can estimate it between the other side of the house and that 25-foot no activity zone?
I don't have.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's all I have, thanks.
Yeah, I was going to estimate it myself. I think it's probably going to bring him at about,
It's probably like 50, 60 feet or something.
yeah, probably about 60 feet, maybe 50 feet into the
Mhm.
no activity zone. Not into the no activity, into the buffer.
Right.
So he would still be about 50 feet from the, plus or minus from the no activity. Anybody have any other questions? Does anybody wish to be heard on this? Okay, can we have a motion to close the public portion?
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second?
Okay, all in favor? I'm still having trouble with this, and I think it's for two reasons. Number one is that you could go west into the buffer zone. You know, I spoke with the Conservation Commission chairman about it, and Diana could probably do a better job of explaining, and maybe I'll ask her to explain. But you really would need just a determination from the Conservation Commission. So at this point in time, it wouldn't be as if you were asking for, an NOI. And again, as you indicated, and as the plan shows, you're already in the buffer zone.
Mm-hmm.
Second is, I recognize that it's not the design you want,
Mm-hmm.
and I recognize that there may be some aesthetic issues with flipping the garage, but the word aesthetics doesn't appear in the section of the bylaw or the section of the state statutes that deals with variances. So unless my colleagues can convince me otherwise, I think I would be reluctant to grant a variance. Now, I recognize that if we do not agree with you, you may not have the design you want, but you still have the opportunity to construct an addition to the house, as well as changing the current garage to living space.
Yep.
And pretty much give you exactly what you want. It may not be, again, as it's been designed and as you may desire, but the availability and the possibility is there.
Yep.
So that's, as I said, unless somebody can convince me otherwise, and I'm willing to listen, that's where I stand right now.
I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. I'm struggling I understand what you're trying to do,
Mm-hmm.
but when we're working with the bylaws that are in front of us, it's not, I can't see a way. I couldn't imagine writing this and trying to explain it, why we would say yes with what's in the bylaws. I don't see a reason, I don't see a way.
If my neighbor were to sell me 8 feet, 7 feet on the property line, would I be then fine to do this exactly as it's drawn up?
I mean, again, if your property line is now going to be, see, right now, the house is 44 feet plus or minus.
Yep.
So if you add another 8 feet, it brings you to 52. Let's say you get up to 53, the garage would then be, 15 or 16 feet, so yes.
That would be, okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Presumably,
let's put it this way. To my mind, the wetlands aren't causing you to come here for a variance, because you could go into the buffer and you could come up with another design to, to accommodate the proposed garage.
So that's good to know too, so we could potentially build on the other side of the house within that buffer.
Potentially. And again, there are 3 criteria for variance. You have to have something relative to the topography or the shape or the soil conditions. Well, you got wetlands on the property, but I don't see that as causing why you have to go east instead of west.
I see.
But even if I agreed there, then there has to be some, reason that where cars, that there has to be some hardship that you're facing.
Yep.
And again, I think you can overcome that by either going west or flipping the garage.
Okay.
That's my feeling.
Yep.
Kim, anything else, or Lorraine, you're also voting?
Yes, I agree. I think that, the option of either Conservation Commission or, as you mentioned, working with your neighbor,
Yeah. Okay.
but there's definitely options for you.
Yeah.
Or working with your architect and
Yeah.
the building commissioner.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you.
Oh, wait, I haven't heard from Kurt.
you covered everything on my end.
Okay.
You did.
So I need a motion. I guess I need a motion to deny.
I move to deny the applicant's request for a variance.
Second?
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Within the next couple of weeks, we'll draft the decision. We'll sign it. Diana will file it with the town clerk. He'll be notified that. That kicks off a 20-day appeal period. So you can appeal our decision. The appeal unfortunately goes to the Superior Court of the Land Court, so it's a little bit more complex than being before us.
All right. Thank you.
I want to thank you. You've been a pleasure to deal with. And, unfortunately, the law is the law.
Yep.
And-
No, I
and we have
appreciate the
to-
explanations.
So
Definitely.
we hope you come up with something that'll accommodate your family's needs, and good luck on that, please.
I understand. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
We're out with you, but come on up. Okay, time being 7:10 PM. Maria Eisenhower seeks a special permit pursuant to the Code of the Town of Foxborough, Chapter 275 zoning, Section 3.1.6, Table 3-1, Table of Uses, Use L10 and Section 3.2.2 to allow a home occupation space for Reiki and other modalities at 28 Sand Street Extension. Property is located in the R40 Residential Zoning District and is not located in any restrictive overlay districts. We're typically a board of 5 members. Only 4 of us, as you can see, are here because one of our regular members is ill. Typically, just the regular members will vote on the matter, but because Mr. Brown's not here, I'm going to appoint Mr. Yegian to vote on the matter. So Kurt, Kim, and I will vote on it, but Lorraine obviously will be able to participate.
Okay.
So, okay, tell us what you want to do.
It's an existing, as you can see from all the paperwork I sent you. Just want to put my massage table in the 3rd bay of the garage and turn it into a meditation and Reiki and other modalities.
So tell us a little bit about, I mean, we had somebody who was here a couple of years ago on Reiki. I think Dave understood it a little more than me, but Dave's not here to explain it to me, so.
So do you want to actually know what Reiki is?
Exactly what you're planning, because you were talking about, I see you have a license or a certification for crystals and,
Crystal balancer and
Okay.
Reiki 1 and 2. And basically, it's helping people, I'm the conduit to bring the energy through to help people relax and get their chakras all balancing, and then people can heal themselves. It's
so what are chakras that need balancing?
from your root all the way up to your crown. They're wheels that move inside your body, and they get jammed just with all the stress of life and everything. So I use the Reiki and the assistance of crystals, and you lay them on people. People are fully clothed. They're just like on a massage table, and I hover over them. I don't actually touch them, and I just help them shift and relax and balance them.
So is anybody in the business with you? Or is it just you?
No, it's just me.
So no employees?
No.
And where within the house would this be occurring?
You have the plan where it shows 3 bays of the garage. The garage with the man door, that would be where the room would be. So they would enter from, and I showed you 3 parking spots, but we actually have a large parking area. But they would park right there and go in the man door into the Reiki room.
So you have space for, I think you said four cars?
Yeah, we actually have space for more than 4, but 4 is where the little white fence is.
And how often will you be doing this?
Well, it would depend on how many people, so it would just be starting to book. I put down like a 9 to 5. Monday through Friday. I put that in on the thing, so.
And how long would each session with an individual be?
Usually an hour to an hour and a half.
And would you typically have a break? Let's assume that business is booming.
Well, I have
Break
2 other
between?
jobs, so.
Oh, okay.
It'll be a progressive thing, so. But you were going to say if business was booming, what?
Right, would there be a break between clientele?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So,
I lost my train of thought. Someone else ask questions and I'll come back.
So would you ever have 4 people there at the same time?
no.
Would it just be one person at a time?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes like when it's a younger person or a mom wants to come and sit, you know. Right now I work out of a place in the Celtics Bar down in Pawtucket, but with gas and everything, it's becoming a challenge, so.
And so you're practicing right now in Pawtucket with the modalities that you are seeking to do in Foxborough?
Yes.
Okay, and how long have you been doing that?
For a couple of years, when you first get certified, you have to do like a year where you're just having everybody volunteering, so you're lugging your little thing around your massage table. So, but I've been doing it for 3 years.
3 years, okay.
Will you be converting the garage in any fashion, or is it just putting a massage table in, or
Well,
renovating it?
on the inside, nothing on the outside. I mean, it was a storage room before, so there was already a wall there. So, and we're putting a bathroom in there, which we've already started with the town, so.
So the diagram you gave us, this would be the garage, correct?
That's 1 bay, yes.
That's 1 bay. So you have on here a crystal room.
That is the room, because there would be shelves with the crystals that you pull to use.
So where would your massage table be?
Just in the middle, so that I can walk around it.
Uh-huh. So again, you say you have a 3-bay garage.
2 of them have vehicles parked in them.
Okay, so you're just using, I imagine what, put a wall up between where the vehicles are? And
There already was, because it was like a storage room before.
Okay. So in other words, the portion of the garage that you plan to use for the business is walled off from the portion of the garage where vehicles are parked?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
And you're putting a bathroom in there, you said?
a half bath,
A half bath, okay. So toilet and sink?
yes.
Okay. Would there be a waiting room for people?
No, just because you don't book them that close together, because you kind of have to decompress yourself after.
And
Clean
are
up and wipe down and spray everything.
clients by walk-in or appointment?
No, it would just be appointments.
Appointment only? Do you currently reside there?
Yes,
Okay. Because I know it's owned by your son, the property.
both of us. It's owned by my husband, and I are 50% owner, and my son is
Okay.
50%
So-
owner.
So your son resides there as well?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah,
But it's your principal residence?
it is.
Okay. Kim, go ahead. Or Kurt, Rain?
So you're not proposing any extensions, but
None
you
at
are
all.
proposing alterations to the structure, and those alterations would be, the doors already exist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's really the bathroom is what the interior alteration is what's happening, okay?
Yep.
And then, okay, so it's 22 by 11 is what you're saying. Do you know what the square footage is of the house? We're just curious about the percentage of the house that would be
was
dedicated to
24.
this.
I think
I'll give you the answer. It's 1944,
Okay,
according to the assessor's records.
okay.
1,944 square feet.
But that probably wouldn't be included
And
in the
then there was
garage.
an addition put on, Justin and
Right.
Becky's bedroom.
Yeah.
is I'm not sure, but I think it's probably like 2,500 square feet upstairs. There's an in-law downstairs and then the upstairs.
Yeah, I'm just going by what the assessor's records show for the
Oh,
property.
okay.
Okay, which is 1,944
Okay.
of living area, because the garage wouldn't be considered living area, as Kurt went in.
Oh. So what does that mean then?
It's 12%.
Well, yeah,
If
that
it's
was-
not considered living area,
That's what I was kind of getting at. What would be, before we would say yes or no to this, if the bathroom is essential, if the renovations are essential, doesn't somebody else have to sign off on that as well? Building inspector?
you said you're working with the,
The
with,
building inspector's
building
already been
inspector
out
for the
for,
bathroom?
Okay.
yeah.
So the provision of the bylaw says the area devoted to the home occupation can't exceed 40% of the habitable floor area. But home occupation can also be performed outside. You know, for example, if there's a detached garage. So that obviously wouldn't be living area, but
Right.
the area of that garage could not exceed 40% of the living area of the home.
What about signage? Are you going to, do you want a sign or something on the side? No?
No, I probably just do something right at my little door, but not out,
Not on the street or anything like that? No? Okay.
no.
And you don't need a motor vehicle in the business?
Excuse me?
You obviously don't need a motor vehicle as far as
Oh,
the
no.
occupation. Any other questions?
No. Thank you.
Lorraine?
No questions.
And I presume that you probably, in addition to a bathroom, you have to have heat put in there.
No, actually, the garage has radiant heat already.
Oh, it does? All right,
Yes,
well,
in
that's
the
interesting. All right,
AC.
Cool.
Any other questions?
No.
No.
Does anybody, member of the public, wish to be heard? Okay, could you come up and, number one, identify yourself by name and address?
My next door neighbor, he's my son, so. I'm Mary Morrissey, 203 Oak Street.
I'm sorry, 203?
Yes.
And I'm Ryan Morrissey, 201 Oak Street.
Okay. Go ahead.
So I guess my main concern is unnecessary traffic going through the easement up to the residents.
What easement are you talking about?
So my property, I own this 30-foot easement up to the Eisenhower property line at the back of my property. So with all the traffic, you know, traffic comes people, people comes noise, people comes trash, and, you know, all unnecessary noise and trash and stuff like that kind of
Yeah.
up to the, you know, their property.
Okay, you're on Oak Street?
Yes, 201 Oak Street.
So as we're looking towards Ms. Eisenhower's driveway from Oak Street, are you on the left-hand side?
So it's Sand Street Extension. I'm
Yes.
Yes, on the left-hand side of that, yeah.
And you're on the left-hand side of that? Okay.
Yes,
So he's in the front, they're behind him.
right.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
So talk a little bit more about the easement. What kind of easement? What's it for? Who's it with?
It's an easement for Justin and the Eisenhowers behind me, and Audrey off to the right, well, past that property line to the back right.
To
If that-
access.
to
It's a
access,
legal
right,
right of way.
Correct, correct.
Where the fence is begins Justin's part of it, so they both split a legal
Yep.
right of way. That's what Sand Street is.
Right.
But the town plows it, so the town,
So the easement allows access to the Eisenhower property, is that what you're saying?
Correct,
and Audrey's.
and Audrey.
Okay, so again, you're concerned about traffic in that area, numbers of people?
Yes, in the sense of, you know, too much of it on a Saturday, Sunday morning, per se, you know?
Did you mention that you weren't going to be open?
Monday through Friday,
Monday through
yes.
Friday, is it? Okay.
Yeah, so. that
And
should
if
be
we were to
easy.
approve it, we would condition it that it would only be, say, Monday to Friday.
Right.
Okay.
And how many clients do you estimate you would have per day, roughly?
At most, if it got really busy, like, what, 5?
So again, your concern would be, if I understand from what you said, you were concerned about traffic on Saturday and Sunday.
Well, it's more, you know, I was using Saturday and Sunday as an example.
Okay.
But in general, traffic that doesn't necessarily have to be going down there on an easement.
We did just tar the whole thing, so it's not dirt and kicking up anymore. We tarred right down to
Yeah,
the
I saw that.
street.
Yeah, okay. Any other concerns?
You got anything?
Well, like I said, I'm worried about the traffic. So where his house is located, the driveway is
For his house.
beside it.
Yeah,
Correct.
sorry,
I'm right next door to him. So it does affect us as well. They have a ton of traffic going down this tiny street. As I say traffic, vehicles, the plumbing truck, the tractor trailer with the wood on it for the sawmill, you know, and whatever else. There's a lot of people living there already. Then during the day, you're going to have more people coming, whether it's 1 or 2 people at a time, it still doesn't matter. If he comes home at 2 in the afternoon, he's up at 4 in the morning, he goes to sleep, and you have one coming, they leave, another coming, the father comes home, Justin comes home. It's just a lot of traffic. That concerns me. Because as you know, Oak Street, it's right on the corner. It's horrendous as it is.
Okay. Any other questions for the Morseys?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody
you.
else?
Thank you.
One more question from Maria.
Yeah, go ahead.
How often do clients repeat?
Once a month.
Once a month.
Was it, yes. And you are?
Hello, I'm Deborah Tankerly. I live at 17 Sand Street. My house is right on the corner of Sand and Oak.
Deborah, your last name again? Can you spell it?
Excuse me?
Could you spell your last name?
Tankerly, T-A-N-K-E-R-L-E-Y.
Okay, thank you.
I just have some general questions and concerns. I also work in healthcare, and I'm fully aware of Reiki and the other modalities that you're referring to. But I just have concerns about the whole setup of this. Not only have you done interior renovations to your home, there's been a lot of exterior renovations that have taken place, and none of the neighbors have known about this. We've had to ask the workers outside, like, hey, what's going on? They just had a new water service put in. They changed from galvanized to copper pipe. They paid for it, the private residents. How was that allowed? They just paved the street. They paid for it, they financed it themselves. How was that allowed? I've never heard of that. The town came and removed trees to prep the road to be asphalted. Like, this was all done up before the approval was given or not given for the business. Like, this is like, sounds like it's a done deal. And us neighbors are just concerned about the added noise and traffic. There is a lot of noise still at that house. They run heavy equipment on Sundays. It's just a sawmill. It's just tractor trailers parked in front of my house to make way for whatever they're delivering across the street. It's a very tiny road to get to their house. I mean, we've had a lot of disturbances with this group. And they don't play nice in the sandbox. And
Even though you're on Sand Street, right?
I'm right there.
She's on.
They use the front of my house to accommodate what they need done over in their area. I mean, it's like they're the only ones living there.
Well, let me try to answer some of your concerns.
Okay.
Any exterior renovations that have been done, any exterior work, I would assume that they would have followed protocol, and if they needed a building permit, a construction permit, they would have gotten that from the building commissioner. That's beyond our purview as a zoning board. Now, if we are to consider any kind of home occupation, we have to follow what is in the zoning bylaw. We're authorized to impose conditions. One of the provisions of the zoning bylaw prohibits any exterior renovations for a home occupation. Now, we haven't heard of any, and that's one reason I think Lorraine asked that question. We haven't heard that there would be any.
There's been a lot of exterior renovations.
But any exterior renovation on the home, unless for whatever reason it requires a special permit under the zoning bylaw, or unless it requires a variance under the zoning bylaw, is outside of our purview. That's a matter for the building commissioner. It's not a matter, number one, it's not a matter for us, And number two, it's obviously not before us tonight. It's not relevant to what we're considering tonight.
So all the renovations they paid for on the street isn't relevant to her business?
Well, it's there. Obviously, somebody authorized it. But
Somebody-
again, that's nothing, if it's already been done and it's nothing's
Right.
going to be done in the future.
Well, us as
relative to
neighbors
that.
were curious, like, how was this allowed? How was this allowed?
If,
Could I answer that?
hold on.
Yeah.
If, what's before us tonight is a request to engage in a home occupation. And that's all that we're considering. What's happened in the past has happened in the past. Again, I'm assuming that where permits were required, permits were obtained. But again, those are not issues for this board, and certainly not an issue
Understandable.
tonight. Now, before I go back to you, or maybe this will be for you, I've heard two people talk about sawmill. What is that all about?
I don't know. Yes.
Okay?
Okay,
What are the other businesses you got going on up there?
there isn't a sawmill.
You got to address us, not her. You're not debating her, you're debating us.
Explain to me all that noise.
No, go ahead, please.
So first of all, the water thing,
Yeah.
the town did that. We had nothing to do with it. That's the town's thing. The water, they had a leak, and they also had a leak off of Cohasset, and the blocking of the driveway was more an inconvenience to us. It didn't bother you other than, but the town made us park the trucks there because they paid for it. And as far as the trees in Ryan's driveway, the town flagged those themselves because they were rotting trees, and they flagged them with the other neighbor, Mike, who Ryan sold his home, and that had nothing to do with us. So it's kind of ridiculous. She's irritated, and it had nothing to do with us. Now, the driveway, we actually asked Audrey a couple of years ago if she wanted to go in on paving, because what happens is, it's a dirt driveway, and when it rains, like I said, the town maintains the driveway by plowing it in the wintertime and stuff, but when it rains, it becomes like a monsoon, and there's a drain at the end of the driveway, and all that stuff just runs down, it puts ruts in the driveway, and all the dirt ends up in the drain that's at the end of the street. So in the water department, we actually put off paving our driveway because the water department told us, we're gonna be digging this up. So we worked with the water department for them to come in, and it was probably a 3-week project because they needed to replace all of their pipes because they've been having a leak problem for a while. So again, we didn't pay for that. We did pay for the tar coming down the driveway. We worked with the town, and like I said, we did go to the neighbors when they didn't want to do it, so they were aware. It was supposed to be done years ago, though. But now it had nothing to do with the business. It had more to do with the fact that, like, you're driving up and down a dirt driveway. So I'm sorry if she,
No, my husband is a former municipal worker, and he went out to speak to the water crew who he knows, and they told him Eisenhower's paying for this.
well, you could check with the water department. I'm just telling you that the
Actually, you know
guy,
something?
That's all.
like,
Yeah,
we
that's
did
enough.
not pay for that.
That's enough.
Well, I stand corrected. I just had some concerns and some questions.
Let
and-
me just say this in addition. The house is in an R40 residential and agricultural district, okay? The bylaw specifies the types of uses that are permitted in that district. Subject to a special permit from us, a home occupation is permitted. If you feel that there are other activities that do not belong in the R40 district in accordance with the zoning bylaw, then your recourse would be to go to the building commissioner, okay? So, I don't know about the quote-unquote sawmill, and whether it may have preceded the enactment of the bylaw, the adoption of the bylaw. But if you feel that that's not a permissible use, then your recourse would be with the building commissioner,
Okay,
okay?
all right, thank you.
Feel free to walk up the driveway. The sawmill was,
Can we-
I'm just letting her know. She's a
No,
good
why don't you let
neighbor,
us know,
really.
okay?
She
Is there
can come up
anybody
and
else
see.
who wishes to be heard? Want to close the public portion? You're voting on this, right?
I am.
Okay.
Move to close the public portion.
Second?
Okay, all in favor? I don't know. You want to start?
So I'm looking at, hang on. There's a lot of paper tonight.
It gets worse.
Yes, and it does get worse. Okay, so I am looking at the bylaws, 10.4.2, criteria for granting special permits. And what that essentially says is the proposed use will not outweigh its beneficial impacts to the town. And let's see, we have to consider each of the following. Community needs served by the proposal. So I would assume this is something that clients enjoy, otherwise they wouldn't come to you. So we certainly would need to talk about traffic flow and safety, including parking and loading. Ms. Eisenhower has said that there would be maximum of 5 clients a day if things got rolling. And in your appointment book filled up. So we're talking about 5 vehicles a day max. You have enough space, those 4 spaces that you were talking about, does anyone else park there? Anyone in your family use that area? Are there other places to park?
Yeah, there's like 4 parking spots in the front,
Yep.
and then there's like 8 in the back. The kids have a big area now to ride their bikes and stuff, so we have.
Okay, so that handles the parking. We've talked about the traffic flow, adequacy of utilities and other public services. I would assume having 5 clients a day max. You would need electricity, you would need water or cleaning in between.
Yep, that's why. the
Doesn't sound
bathroom-
as if that's going to be a huge draw on the water or electrical utilities. Neighborhood character and social structures. We can certainly discuss that. Impact on the natural environment. It doesn't sound like there's really going to be any negative impact on the environment. Potential economic and fiscal impact to the town, including impact on the town services, tax base, and employment. So there would be 1 person employed, that would be you, and would certainly increase the tax base of the town. So those are the things that we need to be looking at.
So why don't you go ahead, and what are your thoughts?
We certainly have seen applications, not exactly like this, but we certainly have seen and approved home occupations, intensive home occupations like this before. So this is not out of the realm, of possibility. At the same time, I certainly have heard what the neighbors have said, and that's definitely something for us to consider. But we have approved applications like this before. With conditions.
With conditions.
Absolutely, with conditions, certainly. And the hours seem very moderate. Nothing on the weekends, nothing in the evenings.
Kirk, any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. Can we have approved this kind of stuff in the past that was very similar in nature? And all the points that you made sense as far as, the tax base, the, lack of resources being used at water, serving a community need, neighborhood character, based that it's an inside business, but I'm also considering the impact on the neighborhood with the neighbors. That's something to consider as well. And that's where I'm kind of stuck right there, thinking about that.
I mean, one way we could, address the, the traffic impact, well, there are two ways. Obviously by limiting the number of clients that could be on premises at any one time. Now, she indicated that she would only be seeing one client at one time, but also by imposing an interval of, say, 15 minutes or half an hour, whatever is appropriate, between clients. So if you see one client, say, from 9 o'clock until 10 o'clock, you can't have an appointment with the second client until, say, 11:30, something of that, until 10:30, something of that nature. I think that way you're going to not just put a limit on the number of people who are on premises at any one time, but also the number of people who are coming onto the Sand Street extension at any one time. I mean, the nature of the business, the nature of this business is that there's not going to be any noise outside of the, unless you're, well, you're not a chiropractor, so you're not going to be twisting somebody's back, they're going to be screaming. But there's not going to be any noise outside of the garage itself. And when we impose conditions, you've got to comply with them. And if you don't, that special permit can be kiss goodbye. Okay.
So how do you know if she doesn't, just out of curiosity?
Well, let's put it this way. I drive frequently. I drive frequently up.
I don't know.
I drive frequently up Oak Street in that direction, but I'm not going to be checking. I mean, certainly if you felt there was an inordinate number, let's just say for argument's sake, we said one client at a time has got to be an interval of a half an hour, and you see 4 vehicles parked there at any one time. The road is clogged for any reason. Contact the building commissioner. Because again, there's a requirement there be compliance with the conditions that we've imposed. And if the building commissioner is notified that there's a problem, he'll inspect. And then we go from there.
Thank you.
Okay. So where are we?
Barney,
Yes?
just one more thing that I heard it sound, the woman mentioned that there was a lot of traffic there. This is residents. And they're describing what sounds like trucks and things like that. How does that relate to R40?
It's additional
requirement?
on top of what's already happening.
Again, on the assumption that whatever else is being done there is appropriate. For example, if there's another business, I think your husband runs his business out of that?
No, he does not. I don't know if they're referring to all the trucks that were coming between the driveway being tarred and the town. I mean, when the water department was there. My son Justin has a big truck, which, I mean, it's a what?
The big blue Eisenhower truck?
Yeah.
That my husband comes home at night and goes out
Once a
again
day.
in the day.
In his plumbing company truck?
Yeah,
Okay, so he parks that on premises?
yeah.
Okay.
And then comes into the house. I mean, it fits in the garage, so.
I mean, we can't,
I mean, some of the other neighbors have loud trucks and a lot in their driveways and motorcycles, and, I mean, it almost sounds like this has gone from a little business to let's criticize the neighbors, because it's just not a quiet street. Come down there anytime at, like, try and get out of the driveway. It's not me clogging it, it's Oak Street that backs up from Cohasset all the way to almost Mitchellmore every single day. So that, I hope I'm not being blamed for
Yeah,
for
no,
all
I-
the traffic coming off. Just drive down Oak Street.
That's
anytime.
obviously not your,
It's the traffic up and down her, well, I shouldn't say yours, because she goes up there too.
All of
It is
our,
That side of the street. I
Yes.
have video at home.
I mean, I recognize there's a lot of traffic on Oak
That's
Street.
all.
Both Kurt and I live off of Oak Street,
Right.
so, we're aware of it. Probably Kurt more than me because he's closer to where you are. I think the best answer I can give you is if something else is being done on the property. Let's just say, for argument's sake, there's another business that has been permitted at one point in time. That's not here.
Similar,
Yeah.
yeah, to what you said before.
If there's another
Okay.
business that's being run through there that should have come to us but never did, again, that's something for the building commissioner
Okay.
to take up.
Thank you.
So does somebody want to make a motion? And we'll talk about conditions if the motion is to approve. And again, you're going to write this one, so.
I am, yes.
Yes.
I am. I move that we accept the application as proposed with conditions.
So let me, before Kurt, you second it, why don't we talk about conditions? So some of these are the conditions we use for every home occupation that we consider, whether it's a daycare or, I don't think we've ever had a dentist, but if it was a dentist, or Frank Spillane back there wanted to have his law practice out of his house, the same thing. So the first would be that the special permit that is granted by this decision is specific to you, and it can't be assigned, conveyed, or transferred to any other person, nor be exercised by any other person who may own, lease, or reside in the residence. I think we should also add a provision that says that you must reside within the residence. All right, that'll be number one. Second condition would be that the home occupation at all times must comply with the intensive home occupation standards that are set forth in section 3.2.2 of the zoning bylaw. And very briefly, business can't produce noise or other objectionable characteristics beyond the limits of the lot. The area devoted to the occupation can't exceed 40% of the habitable floor area of the residence. Necessary off-street parking must be provided. No more than 2 persons, in addition to family members residing in the residence, may be employed. Storage of material products outside of the residence is prohibited, and the making of external structural alterations to the residence is prohibited. So those are the provisions within the bylaw, and that'll be the second condition. Third would be that performance of the occupation is restricted to Monday through Friday between the hours of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. 4, not more than 1 client of the occupation may be provided services at any single time, and there must be an interval of, tell me how much between clients. How many minutes? 15, 30?
How does everyone feel, 15:30? What do you think?
30.
30?
Okay.
Okay, the proposed home occupation is to be formed in Are you saying this is a 20-foot, 22-foot by 11-foot area of the garage?
I think it's 16 feet wide. Or maybe I'm gonna look back to him.
It's 22 feet by 11, so it's like 240.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly within, I guess I want to specify which room it's going to be.
The bay with the separate entrance.
Okay.
And the garage.
Man door on it.
So when you say in the,
Is it the end bay?
It's a current storage area in the garage with a separate entrance.
Is this the rightmost bay?
Yes,
Okay.
if you're looking at the 3 bays.
So the rightmost bay with a door
The man door's already there.
on the right-hand side.
okay. So if we were to say that the occupation is to be formed in the portion of the Eisenhower residence, I hope you'll be able to read this, Kim, garage, that is the rightmost bay with entry door? Okay.
What about no signage?
No signage.
Yeah, I want to get to that in a second. I have that down. So,
So
during the ordinary course of the day, how many vehicles are parked on the property outside?
Well, my daughter-in-law had a heart attack, so if she has nurses coming or friends coming, I mean, that has nothing to do with the business, correct?
No, but I
If
want
she's-
to have I want to specify the maximum number of vehicles that could be on the property at any time. I mean, there's obviously going to be one for a client.
So for the business, like 2 cars, like myself and a client or a coming client?
Would 4
I'm
make
not sure
sense?
what you're asking.
4 at any one time?
Yeah.
That would make sense.
Okay, so we say a maximum of 4 motor vehicles for,
For the business, you're saying, correct?
Well, does it need to be 4? If it's one client at a time,
Or is that in total?
yeah, I'm thinking, well, so it should be a maximum of 1 motor vehicle
right,
for clients. And the,
so you're talking about residents?
yeah, residents,
Residents or anyone that's visiting the home?
right.
Plus Ms. Eisenhower plus a client.
So-
Okay, so we're looking for total, maximum number of vehicles allowed at one time.
So I don't understand, are you limiting them having guests at the house? I'm
Well, during time that the business is in function. I don't care what's there on Sunday if you're having a birthday party.
Right, but like my son has a couple trucks, I have a minivan, Becky has a car. I'm not sure what you're asking when you're saying numbers
But we
of.
have to ensure that there's enough parking there.
Oh.
Right.
So
Yeah, there's
we
definitely,
do need
I mean,
to,
like,
but what you're telling us is there's 4 in one,
there's
there's 4
3 in one area, 4 in another, and then technically in front of my garage, you could fit 8, and then next to the house. I mean, like, there's ample parking.
Maybe
I don't-
the
you're-
answer is she's not going to have any employees.
Right.
So maybe we should just limit it to the maximum number of vehicles for clients.
For the clients, it has 1.
For
Yeah.
clients, okay.
Okay. So maximum of 1 motor vehicle for clients of the occupation are to be parked on the property any single time during the hours in which you're conducting the business. You've indicated that you have no necessary desire for signage, but what we're typically include is that, consistent with the specific provisions of the sign bylaw, you can have 1 freestanding sign that identifies the business. It can't be larger than 3 square feet in area, can't exceed 6 feet in height, must be set back at least 10 feet from the property's lot line, cannot be illuminated. Okay?
Okay.
And finally, to the extent that you might be conducting business under a fictitious name, you would need a business certificate from the town clerk, and that has to be maintained in force and effect.
I believe I put the Enchanted Sapphire.
But whatever,
paperwork.
you're going to have to go to the town clerk and
Oh,
get
okay,
authorization for that, okay?
Okay.
Anything else? Second?
Second?
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? So we're going to write up a decision within the next couple of weeks. Diana will file it with the town clerk.
Okay.
Kicks off a 20-day appeal period. So anybody can appeal if they don't like our decision. That appeal goes to the courts. At the end of that appeal period, you're going to have to file the decision in the registry of deeds. And then you're going to have to give evidence of that filing with Mr. Shippey, with the building commissioner. Okay? If you have any questions, either give him a call or you can call Diana.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You?
I don't know how much you can read, but.
Thank you.
All right, time being, geez, 7:20. Jake Development seeks a special permit pursuant to the Code of the Town of Foxborough, Massachusetts, Chapter 275 zoning, Section 5.4.2, to allow pre-existing non-conforming single-family residential structure to be reconstructed such that the habitable floor area of the new single-family residential structure will exceed that of the existing structure by 25% or more, and any other special permits, variances, or findings as may be required with respect to the foregoing. The subject property is located at 9 Shore Place in the R15 Residential and Agricultural District and is not located in any restrictive overlay district. You guys look familiar.
Good evening. Attorney Frank Splain here with Don Triani, who's the owner of the applicant.
Oh, I'm sorry, Frank, Dave's out ill. So
sorry?
Lorraine's going to be the voting member on this.
Okay. So again, Jake Development LLC is both the applicant and the property owner on the property located at 9 Shaw Place, which is within the R15 zoning district. The applicant is requesting a special permit under section 5.4.2 to allow the reconstruction of pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling. Section 5.4.2 requires a special permit from this board to allow the reconstruction of any non-conforming single-family residential structure in the event the reconstruction either increases the non-conforming nature of the structure or increases the habitable floor area of the structure by 25% or more. And in this case, we're doing both. The board may grant such a special permit upon the finding that the reconstruction shall not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood in which the structure is located than the existing non-conforming structure. And again, we believe that it's going to be actually a benefit and not substantially more detrimental. As I stated, both the structure and the lot are pre-existing non-conforming. So I made a little chart, if I may.
Thank you.
Make life a little easier.
Thank
It's
you.
all within the application.
you.
But when I was preparing for this evening,
Thank you.
I thought it would help me.
Yeah,
and I
thank
thought it
you.
would help you.
That's great.
And did everybody get the pictures that Frank sent to Diana?
So again,
Remotely,
nine,
Morning has them on the, with the file. Lorraine didn't see them.
You have a copy of the pictures?
Yeah.
They're with, no, they're, I
But
printed
she
them
gave
out,
you a
they're on,
copy of
the-
them.
they're in the purple
Are
folder.
they in there?
They are there.
On
Oh,
the
yeah.
top, yeah.
I mean, Lorraine should have seen the property, but
I did.
open some eyes.
so again, the 9 Shop Place is in the 15 zoning district. The existing single-family dwelling is a pre-existing non-conforming structure, as is the lot. The dwelling was built around 1940, prior to any zoning. It's a pre-existing non-conforming structure because it has a front yard setback of 11 feet, where 25 feet is required, a side yard of 1 foot, and the other side yard is 37 feet, where 15 feet is required, and the rear back set is 22 feet, where 30 feet is required. So again, it's a pre-existing non-conforming structure. The lot is pre-existing non-conforming because the lot has an area of 4,167 square feet, where 15,000 is required. A frontage of 63 feet, where 100 feet is required, and a lot width of approximately 63 feet, where 67 feet is required. The existing structure has a habitable floor area of approximately 1,021 square feet, and that's as listed in the Foxborough Assessor's Card. Anyone who's willing to go in there to make the measurements can, but I wouldn't advise it. The applicant is requesting special permit to allow the demolition of the structure and reconstruction of a single-family dwelling on the lot, with the reconstruction structure having a front yard of 11 feet, which is the same as existing, one side yard of 8 feet, where 1 foot is the existing, and 16 feet is the other. And again, 15 feet is required side yard. So that second side yard still meets the requirement. The rear yard, however, will be 8 feet. The existing structure is 22 feet, and 30 feet is required in this zone. Also, the reconstructed dwelling will have a habitable floor area of 1,717 square feet, 790 square feet on the first floor, and 927 square feet on the first floor. The basement will be unfinished. That's an increase in the habitable floor area of 696 square feet, which is a 69% increase in the habitable floor area. The pictures we forwarded to you, and if anyone went by and saw it, shows that the existing structure is not in the best of condition. It really can't be rehabbed. It really needs to be demoed and reconstruction. It's not structurally sound enough to do any renovations, and the cost to do anything with that structure as is would just be so high that it's much more economical to demolish it and then reconstruct a new dwelling on it. The pictures, I think, really show how bad it really is. We've sent to you copies of the proposed dwelling, which shows the exterior as well as the floor plans. And the one difference being, and I think we indicated, the deck that's off the back was going to be off the side. And but that shows on the plan how it's being proposed. We're increasing one of the property lines from 1 foot to 8 foot because Mr. Triani, in looking at the property and finally purchasing it, had met with those individuals, and they asked if he could move it off of that sideline as best he could. And the other sideline, again, is 16 feet, where 15 feet is required. We're maintaining the front yard setback, so that's not a problem. But in order to get any kind of structure in there that would be a reasonable single-family residence, we have to go further into the rear yard. The existing structure is a three-family house, and that's what we're proposing, as you can see in the layout. The rear yard abuts the rear yard of 10 Howard Ave, and that house is right on Howard Ave, not that far off of it. And if you look at the assessor's map, I don't know if any of you looked at it, that property goes back and kind of jugs a little bit. So this new house isn't going to be anywhere near the house on that lot. It's, you know, just getting a little closer to their rear yard, but won't really impact them at all, if significantly at all. And the distance between the house, I estimate, is probably at least, 200 feet or more. So it's not going to really affect the residents at that house, though we're going to get closer to it. If you look at the assessor's map, this is probably the second smallest lot in that area. It's a very small lot, pre-existing. Shaw Place is an old road with different widths as you go down there. And if you looked at any of the other residences, you could see that they have had additions put on. I don't know if any of them were reconstructed, but they are larger than what's required there. But we feel it will fit in with that neighborhood. Mr. Triani has spoken with some of the neighbors. They're all an encouragement of having that house torn down and a new one put up. Again, the board can grant a special permit upon the finding that the reconstruction shall not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood in which the structure is located than the existing non-conforming structure. We feel that the proposed reconstructed single-family is not substantially more detrimental and actually will benefit and not be at all detrimental to the neighborhood, as the new dwelling will be visually, aesthetically, and located on the lot much better than the existing structure.
Anyone with any questions?
When was the house last occupied?
I'm sorry?
When was it last occupied?
9 years ago.
Yeah. I was going to say 10, but it's close to 10, 9, 10.
And it's abandoned currently?
Are any animals inside now? So it's occupied by animals?
Yeah, yeah.
Everything you can think of.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
No.
Anybody want to be heard on this?
Just maybe just positive.
Yeah.
Just tell us who you are.
Luke and Gretchen Hauber, we're on 11 Shaw, the 1-foot yard.
Yep.
And we're very encouraged by this. It's been an eyesore and a real nuisance for more than 9 years. So we're very happy to have someone putting in something so nice.
Yeah, it's been very dangerous over there. There's actually been high school kids that look at this like at the haunted house that they can all go, and they've gone in, and we're lucky that there hasn't been amazing accidents with people are, gravely injured. Yeah, there's been all kinds of animals. We have ring camera footage of coyotes and fox, and we've seen raccoons in the windows waving to us to say hello. So for us, we just think this is fantastic. Everyone in our neighborhood, the 3 houses that are right next to each other all came in on a train. They're Sears houses. So they all came in around 1903. They all were built and they're all very similar sizes with different additions, as you noted, that have come on over the years. So anything that comes in now at this point is going to be a great benefit. The 1-foot line that we've had has been kind of crazy. We're loving the fact that it's going to be 8 feet away instead. That's obviously going to be a much better scenario for us.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, if no one else wants to be heard, no other questions, want to close the motion to close the public portion?
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Clearly, this is a vast improvement. I mean, when you were here last month, what you were proposing was an improvement, but this is much more.
Much more.
Much more. And as far as, so certainly I can clearly say that the requirements for a finding and for a special permit are satisfied. There's no question in my mind. As far as Frank's omnibus request, early in May, the building commissioner did ask me to look at this. Actually, at that point in time, you had a picture of the new house superimposed upon the old one. And his question to me was, do they need a variance at all? And I said, no, it's just a special permit under this section. So there's no other, as far as I can think of, there's no other relief that is needed.
I agree.
Okay, so I have two conditions. that I'm going to propose. Number one is that the location of the dwelling on the property be as shown on the certified plot plan prepared by Bay Colony, and shall comply with the front yard, side yard, rear yard setbacks that are set forth, therein. And two, the dwelling is to be, you said it's a single family, or? It's a single family, right?
Yep.
Proposed dwelling shall be a single-family residential structure containing 1,717 square feet. I got that right this time, didn't I? I think last time it was,
You can have a zero if you want.
1,717 square feet of habitable floor area, and shall be designed and constructed in accordance with the HPA design plans. And other than that, I don't think there's anything else we need. Okay, motion to approve with those conditions?
Motion to approve with conditions stated?
Second?
Okay, all in favor? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'd never been
Thank you.
down that street before, so thank you for the tour.
Yes, I didn't even know it
I
existed.
didn't realize it was Sears houses. That's actually quite cool.
It is, isn't that interesting? Yeah, I want to go look that up.
Yeah, no, they used to actually buy them from the catalog.
Of course,
Yeah, like everything else.
of course.
Right? Yeah,
Why not?
Get a horseless carriage in a house.
We're well behind. Does anybody want to take a 5-minute break?
Can we have 5? Yes.
Yeah. Paul, we're going to take 5. I apologize for the hour, but the time being 7:30 PM, 119 Morse Street Realty Trust requests a comprehensive permit under the Local Initiative Program pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40B, Sections 20-23, to construct 52 condominium residential units, 25% of which will be affordable to households earning not more than 80% of the area median income. The property is situated at 119 Morse Street in the General Industrial District and is in a future aquifer overlay district. You guys can relax. I got a lot to say before you say anything. So, tonight's the initial introductory hearing session for what I anticipate is going to be a multi-month process to determine whether a comprehensive permit is to be issued to allow 52 condominium units, 13 of which would be affordable, to be developed at 119 Morse Street. Our objective is to not go beyond 10 o'clock for any single hearing session, and that would include tonight. And when I say 10 o'clock, I mean 10 p.m., not 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. The responsibility for determining whether a comprehensive permit is to issue rests exclusively with the Board of Appeals, with us. We're a 5-member board. Dave Brown, Kim Mellon, and I are the board's regular members. Kurt Yegian and Lorraine Brew are our associate members. All of us participate in the hearing. However, only Dave, Kim, and I, as the board's regular members, are authorized to vote unless one of us is absent from a hearing session or must recuse himself or herself. In that case, I'll appoint either Kurt or Lorraine to vote in that person's stead. If I'm absent or must recuse myself, Dave, or Kim if Dave is also absent, will chair the hearing session and appoint Kurt or Lorraine as a voting member. Because Dave, unfortunately, is not attending tonight's hearing session, due to a medical situation, I'm appointing Kurt Yegian to vote on all motions that we're going to consider this evening. Now, when one of us misses one hearing session, and that individual subsequently watches the video of that session on Foxborough Cable and files certification to such effect with the town clerk, that individual is authorized to continue to participate in the hearing and to vote on matters that arise. That authorization does not apply if the individual misses a second hearing session. So it's 2 strikes, you're out, as far as this goes. A majority vote is required to approve any motion that we consider. We will be assisted tonight and throughout this process in our consideration of the application by Paige Duncan, who is Foxborough's Director of Land Use and Economic Development, by Diana Gray, who is our Administrative Assistant, and as I have often said in the past, is the most important person in the room, by Scott Shippey, who is Foxborough's Building Commissioner. Scott is currently on vacation, but you will see him here as the process goes along. We're also assisted by Judy Barrett of Barrett Planning, and Judy is our 40B consultant, and we welcome her. Hopefully, and we will be taking a vote on this a little bit later on, we will be assisted in the process by environmental partners. They're our peer review consultant. The individuals from environmental partners who will primarily be working with us are Scott Turner, and I think Dylan O'Donnell is there. Am I correct? Yes, thank you, Dylan. And at this point, I think it's appropriate to acknowledge and express appreciation for the work of Foxborough Cable in broadcasting our hearings, and in particular to Paul Beck, who is back there doing all the work. The entire application and supporting materials that we've received to date are posted on the board's page of the town website. All written correspondence that is submitted concerning this matter is also going to be posted there. Future correspondence and other materials should be submitted to Diana's attention. The board's page of the town website contains information concerning comprehensive permits in the form of responses to frequently asked questions. And we recommend that the public review that information to enhance understanding of the comprehensive permit concept and process. Members of the public will have an opportunity during each hearing session to comment and ask questions. That may be somewhat truncated tonight, but trust me, this is a multi-month process, as I said, and you will have the opportunity to be heard throughout. You'll be permitted to do so only when recognized by the chairman, and when so recognized, you will need to identify yourself by name and address. Comments and questions are directed to the board, not to the applicant or to the applicant's representatives. We request that in commenting, you be succinct and address issues and questions that are relevant to this matter. Please be civil and courteous, and a little humor is always appreciated. On June 21st, I submitted to the town clerk a form that's entitled Disclosure of Appearance of Conflict of Interest. And I stated in that disclosure that I have known Mike Saig, the applicant, as trustee of 119 Morse St Realty Trust, and members of his family for more than 30 years. I previously served with Mike on an ad hoc committee that was responsible for revising Foxborough zoning bylaw. I have served with Mike for the past several years and continue to so serve on Foxborough's Economic Development Committee. I am a personal friend of Bill Casbara, who is assisting Mike Saig on this matter. I worked closely with Bill on Zoning Board of Appeals and other zoning-related matters during his tenure as Foxborough's Building Commissioner. That included working together on several comprehensive permit applications and serving together on ad hoc committees that were responsible for revising Foxborough zoning and sign bylaws. I have had occasion since Bill's retirement as Foxborough's Building Commissioner to discuss miscellaneous zoning matters with Bill. And taking account those facts, the facts that I've just disclosed, I feel that I can perform my official duties objectively and fairly, and so signified when I signed this form and filed it with the town clerk. Anybody else?
Barney?
Go ahead.
So I also have filed a disclosure. I've known Mike Saig we've worked together on the Economic Development Committee since 2015, worked closely on a number of projects. Also wanted to have it on record that I know him from that experience of working with him. So have filed that disclosure. Also, I filed a disclosure regarding, I've worked with Bill Casbara. We served together on a board of directors for a local assisted living facility, so we work closely together on matters pertaining to that area. Again, for both those situations, they will not compromise my ability to be objective on this matter.
Kurt? I also filed a disclosure. I've worked with Mike on the Economic Development Committee in the past, and with Bill and the Zoning Board in the past. And all the appropriate disclosures have been filed, and I don't think that's going to affect my ability to make a decision.
And my understanding is that Dave Brown has also filed a disclosure. I'll leave it to Dave to discuss that, hopefully at the next meeting when he's here. Again, just relax a little bit, just a little bit more. So what we're commencing tonight, as I indicated earlier, is the consideration of a consolidated comprehensive permitting request. And the board is authorized in this respect to grant a single permit to allow the development of a project that includes low and moderate income housing units. This process allows the applicant to forego the need to file separate applications with the other town boards, committees, departments, and officials that otherwise would have jurisdiction over this matter. It also allows the board to waive local zoning and other town requirements, not state requirements, that otherwise would impede or prohibit development of a project. The board is required to conclude this public hearing within 180 days. We're required to render our decision within 40 days of the date on which the public hearing closes. Those dates can be extended with the applicant's written consent. You know, I'm sort of reminded in saying that a number of months ago, I read an article in the New York Times about an affordable housing project that was approved in the town of Huntington, New York, 47 years after it had been initially filed. Now that resonated with me because, not because of the 47 years, but because of the subject matter, and because I grew up in a town that was adjacent to Huntington. And I think Mr. Casbara probably knows where Huntington is as well, although not adjacent to it.
Absolutely.
I can assure you this will not take 47 years. I don't have that much time. But however, I do want to say that it is our practice, regardless how complex or routine the matter that we are considering, to not render a decision until all questions have been answered to our satisfaction and all information necessary to reach an informed determination has been received. The central issue in our consideration and determination is consistent with local needs. In this respect, we need to balance the regional need for affordable housing that is recognized by Chapter 40B of the Massachusetts General Laws with valid local concerns of health, safety, open space, site and building design, and the natural environment. We can approve the application outright as it has been presented. We can approve it with conditions, or we can deny it. Conditions that we impose must be reasonable in view of the regional need for affordable housing and necessary to protect valid health and safety concerns of the project's prospective residents and other town residents, or to create a project that appropriately fits with its surroundings in terms of its site and building design, open spaces, and the natural environment. Now, it's well known that Foxboro has achieved and exceeded its statutory objective of having 10% of the town's full-time, year-round housing being deemed affordable. The subsidized housing inventory that is maintained by the Massachusetts Department of Housing and Community Development indicates that approximately 12.8% of the town's housing units are affordable. Now, attainment of what is known as the statutory minima provides the town with what is known as a safe harbor defense to this application. We can deny the application on that basis as being consistent with local needs. My recommendation to the board is that we reserve the right to raise that defense, but proceed to consider the application. Now, I have two reasons for making that recommendation. Number one, as everybody knows, or I believe everybody knows, this application has come to us as a local initiative petition, under the local initiative program. So the Board of Selectmen has indicated their sponsorship of the application. As I indicated earlier, the decision is ours. It's not the Board of Selectmen. It's the three of us who will be voting, but it's the five of us. I take this position with the belief that the selectmen have appointed me and Kurt and Kim and Lorraine and Dave with the expectation that we will exercise our independent judgment and discretion. Notwithstanding the fact that this application is here under the local initiative program, I believe warrants its full consideration in deference to the action the Board of Selectmen have taken. Perhaps more fundamental than that, we bear a responsibility to act in the best interest of the town. And I feel that we cannot act in the best interest of the town until such time as we fully vetted this application. It would be very, very easy for us to deny it tonight. If nothing else, that would free up our calendar. However, I don't think doing that would be acting in the best interest of the town. And for that reason, I think it's in our interest, in the town's interest, to reserve our right to raise that as a defense and to proceed with the consideration of the application. Kim, Lorraine, Kurt, any other thoughts on that?
No, I 100% agree.
Kurt?
No additional thoughts, Marie. You summed it up very well.
Lorraine?
I agree. Thank you.
So I'd like to make a following motion. The motion is that we proceed in accordance with the applicable provisions of 760 CMR 56.03 with a full hearing of this application, reserving the board's right to deny the requested comprehensive permit application on the basis of Foxborough having achieved, prior to the filing of such application, the 10% statutory minima that is set forth in GL Chapter 40B, Section 20, and 760 CMR 56.03, 3A, and to authorize and direct the board's chairman to inform the applicant of the foregoing in writing. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? As I indicated earlier, I think Mike is on. Mike, I am going to send you a letter, both by email and first-class mail. I'll probably get it out tomorrow to that effect. I'm required to do it within 15 days of tonight, but I intend to do it tomorrow. You should get an email tomorrow, late in the afternoon. If you have any questions, please let me know. As I indicated earlier, we hope to confirm the retention of Environmental Partners as our peer review consultant. I know that they provided, although I haven't had a chance to really read it in depth, a proposal earlier today. Paige, have you had an opportunity to read that?
I did briefly skim it, yes.
Okay. So Environmental Partners has been retained by the planning board to act on behalf of that board as the town's peer review consultant or engineering consultant. And I've been advised that we can also retain them. The proposal includes an estimated cost for their services. Their services are paid for by the applicant. Their responsibility is, as I said, it's peer review. They have no responsibility for providing independent studies or analyses. It's to review the reports, the studies, the analyses that the applicant has provided and to advise us accordingly. So I really would like a motion to approve Environmental Partners as our peer review consultant.
I move that we approve Environmental Partners as our peer review consultant.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Second is that, as I indicated, because Environmental Partners will be paying for I'm sorry, because the applicant will be paying for environmental partners' services, at the very least, we need to establish an escrow account out of which payment will be made. The estimate, I believe, that they have provided is $26,000 for their services. I would hope that that amount is not reached. I think at this point, what I would like to do is to establish an escrow account at a lesser amount, and if we have to add to it, so be it. And what I would propose would be that we require the applicant to initially pay the amount of $15,000, and therefore any additional amounts that the board deems necessary and appropriate into an escrow account maintained by the Town of Foxborough Treasurer for purposes of paying the fees and expenses of the board's peer review consultant. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay. They will be providing us with monthly itemized invoices. So I would expect the first invoice at the end of July. Obviously, we'll provide a copy to the applicant, and if there are any questions, any concerns, any issues, we'll discuss them and hopefully resolve them without any problem. It's your turn now. I'm going to leave this to the applicant for an introduction and then a very broad, hopefully short overview of the project.
Well, first, I'd just like to make a disclosure. Since everybody's doing it, because kumbaya, aren't we one big happy family, I also filed a disclosure with the town clerk, although I don't have to because I am no longer an employee. I just didn't want the perception of impropriety or ethics. So I filed a disclosure that I was formerly, before I retired 4 years ago, the building commissioner and zoning enforcement officer for the town, and that I had worked previously with the board on appeals, variances, special permits, and consulting with them, with all the members. And also, I filed it because there is a tolling or freeze period that I cannot be involved in any boards for 1 year after I retire. That's long been expired, but I wanted to have that filed, so that's on record, so I've done so. So the chairman has very eloquently explained the role of the board and took a lot of my thunder in his speech, so I will make this brief by just explaining we're here to seek a comprehensive permit, as was explained under Chapter 40B and Section 5.02 of the Rules and Regulations of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and the location is, as pointed out, 119 Morse Street, which is in a general industrial zoning district and the Aquifer Protection Overlay District. It's approximately a little bit over 6 acres. With me tonight, again, my name is Bill Casbarra, and I represent Mike Saig, the applicant for 119 Morse Street Realty Trust. And with me tonight is our team, and I'll introduce them. And we're going to keep this as brief as possible tonight, knowing that, as the chairman has pointed out, this process is going to take a series of more detailed meetings in which everything will be worked out, revised, and we'll address every concern that the board and the different departments has. So with me tonight is Bob Engler, our 40B consultant from SEB Consultants, and he is more than happy to address any questions that the board might have tonight and make himself available to you. We also have Jeremy Lake from Union Studio Architects. He's our architect. He will give a brief presentation of the architectural layout of the project. And you know Bill Buckley from Bay Colony Group. He's our civil engineer and land surveyor. So with that said, we'll move along. I know it's unusual that you have 4 hearings at one meeting, so it's been long and drawn out so far. So we'll keep it as brief as possible. And with that, if you have any questions of Bob, he's available. But if not, we're just going to quickly turn this over to Jeremy, where he can make a presentation. It's already on the board of the architectural layout, and he'll break it down for you. Okay, so.
Thank you.
It's yours.
So good evening. Again, my name's Jeremy Lake with Union Studio Architecture Community Design. We're based in Providence, Rhode Island, but we do work around New England throughout the country, in fact, of these sorts of projects. On the screen before you is our conceptual plan. I'm just going to walk you through it briefly. I know you guys have already seen the drawings, but we just wanted to make sure we touched on the major points. The project is accessed from the existing drive off of Morse Street. If I move this points right. And it comes in, brings you across an existing bridge, and then delivers you into the site. We have a primary drive that runs sort of back along this edge of the pond, and then we have a secondary drive that is sort of a loop to bring the residents back around, emergency vehicles, service vehicles, a pretty easy way in and around the site. We are proposing 52 total units. 2 of those are in the existing house that we plan to retain, but to convert to the 2 units. That's the gray home there in the middle. Along the back edge of the pond, we're proposing 5 duplexes, so that's 10 total sort of cottage units. We're calling those attached cottages. And those are what you would sort of see as you look across the pond. You'll notice we resisted putting another one in front of the existing house. We thought it was important to preserve a view to that existing house across the pond, and also wanted to preserve a shared amenity space on the pond so that all of the residents here would have the opportunity to come out and enjoy that view. The back portion of the site, there are 10 fourplex buildings, so there's 40 units total in the orange colored structures. So each of those have 2 units on a ground floor plus 2 units up above. All of the units, with the exception of those in the existing house, have a single car attached garage, space for a second car in the driveway just in front of the garage. And then the 2 units that will be in the converted home, there's a small, it's hard to make out, but there's a small 2-car garage there. They would each have a space there. And then additionally, we have 10 visitor spaces distributed throughout. In addition to the buildings, it was important for us to create a series of shared green common spaces. I pointed out the one already on the pond, but if you look back behind the existing house, you'll see we also have a sort of triangular shaped space that would be a green shared court. The 5 buildings you see back there, in addition to the existing house, the ground floor units would all have a front door out onto that space and a front porch fronting that space. So we'd have a lot of eyes on that space. We have proposed a shared sort of amenity on the back, maybe a little gazebo, maybe that ultimately becomes a fire pit or something at the back end of that space. But you'll see the idea is that then ultimately connects back out into the town conservation lands beyond. We still need to work that out, but our hope is that we could potentially have connection to some sort of trails or access back there to take advantage of that space and have these residents actually provide some eyes on that space to make sure it's secure and used as intended. The network of sidewalks extend around the remaining structures as well. You can see we have a walkway that extends along the fronts of the duplexes. And at either end, we also have walks that run in front of the other fourplex buildings, again, ultimately connecting back out to the conservation land, and each of those connecting to each other. So there'll be opportunities here for the residents to be able to get out, go for a walk without necessarily having to walk in the drive. Not that there'd be much traffic there to begin with, but the notion here is to create a sort of pedestrian-friendly, cohesive community. And then this is an aerial view of what that might look like. So again, you have the pond in the foreground. You can see the existing bridge where you cross over to get in. So again, from Morse Street, really what you'll be seeing are those duplex cottages, as well as the existing house and that shared green space there in front with, again, maybe a little gazebo or something that the residents could go out and sit at. Behind the existing home, which is the one there in the middle with the sort of greenish colored roof, you can see that triangular space sort of feeding back and through and out to the town conservation lands, and the connected series of walkways and streets. Landscape plan we're still sort of developing, but certainly we would intend to provide a number of canopy shade trees throughout these spaces, number of plantings around the foundations of the buildings themselves. Again, I would think of this as it's almost more of a campus community kind of feel, less so a bunch of individual, very different homes. And I think the landscape plan will reflect a similar tone. And then lastly, I won't go through all the architecture in detail. We've included the plans and the elevations for the typical types. We can spend more time on that at a future session if you'd like. I did just want to share these couple of images. On the left, that is the existing house. I think I pulled these images from an old property listing, so I don't think it's still that kind of terrible green color. But it gives you a sense of the scale and the character of the architecture. We're very much trying to use that as the inspiration for the new units being proposed here. And on the right, we wanted to share, this is one of our projects. This is in Concord, Massachusetts. It's called the Riverwalk, and it's a series of cottages. It's not fourplexes, but again, it was also modeled around this idea of a shared central green space that the residents use as they're sort of coming and going front doors. It also has, you can see, a little shared common amenity building down there at the end, and ultimately a connection out to some preserved woodland behind. So the character of that is very much what we're trying to achieve here as well. So I think I'll leave it at that as our sort of quick overview, but obviously happy to take any questions you might have. And I'll pass it over to Bill to talk about some of the engineering aspects. Oh, could I point out one last thing?
Yep.
I forgot to mention the affordable housing locations in case that's of interest. We designated them with the little red asterisks that are sprinkled out throughout the plan. So of the 40 fourplex units, 25% would be 10. So we've designated 10 of those as affordable. Typically what we did was if we had one on the first floor, we went ahead and put another affordable unit above it so that we were stacking affordable units, but then they were paired with market rate units on the other side of that party wall. We tried to, again, distribute those throughout so they're not all sort of off in one corner. Similarly with the duplexes, we have 10 of those units, so 25% would be 2.5. We rounded it up to 3. That also helped cover for the other 2 units in the existing home that's to be converted. So again, we've identified 3 locations there, which would be the proposed affordable locations. So 13 of the 52 units, 25% to be deed restricted affordable housing.
So good evening, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bill Buckley from Bay Colony Group. And I'm just going to walk you through some of the civil site design elements for the project. So I'm going to stay on this drawing right here because it's a nice picture. So the site is located.
Bill, can you speak a little louder or get the, I see Paul saying.
Paul's yelling at me?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, he's not yelling at you, but he was.
So the
using sign language to yell at you.
This is the so this is a site, and this is it's about a little over 2 acres. It's located on the west side of Morse Street at the Bleachery Pond. And as Jeremy pointed out, you access it through a driveway. You currently access it through a driveway over a bridge. It's about 15 feet wide, and then through into a bituminous driveway entering the site. There's wetlands along the Bleachery Pond side of it, so along the bottom part, as you can see here and following it, and of course the Rumford River. And in addition, there's some wetlands that come in along the east side, and then there's some isolated wetlands in the back. We've had all these wetlands reviewed by the Conservation Commission. They have issued what's called an order of resource area delineation, agreeing with what's on the plan here. That has actually been appealed. It's in the process of going through an appeal process with the DEP. And I'm not sure when they expect to issue that, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. So the site itself it's relatively flat. The elevation of the water is approximately elevation 180, and I would say the average elevation on the site is about maybe 185, 186. And as you go as you're looking at the plan, the upper left, it starts to go up in this direction. But it's a relatively flat site as you go through there. You know, as under the comprehensive permit state law and under the local regulations, we are required we're not producing a fully engineered set of plans. We have to provide a set of plans that show you in a general manner the activities that we're proposing. And as the guideline in the local regulations is that we use the preliminary plan subdivision regulations in Foxborough. So with that in mind, we've done a full topographic survey of it, and it's one of the sheets in your plan. I'm not going to show it to you because it's so busy, doesn't tell you a lot up on that board. So there's a topographic survey that shows the existing condition, shows the elevations, shows the locations of any improvements, the wetlands, et cetera. We've also done a complete soil analysis of the entire site. We've logged perhaps a dozen soil tests throughout the area, again, in accordance with the regulations, in order to determine things like the type of soils, depth of water, those elements. And that is included in your packet. And what we found is the soils here are very sandy gravel with a, not a high water table, but I would say a moderate water table. What we're proposing is, Jeremy touched on it, it's about 1,650 linear feet of what I call driveway. It's not a roadway. It's never going to be a roadway. It's just a driveway that circles through the site. It's 20 feet wide, and that's a standard that the fire department would like to see. And so we've talked to them about this twice. And so all of those driveways are 20 feet wide. As Jeremy talked about, it's a little bit unconventional when it comes to sidewalks. And sidewalks aren't next to the driveways like a roadway. They wrap around the backs of the houses or the front of the houses when you're talking about the fourplexes in the middle or the duplexes along the side. It's bituminous, as you would expect. The sidewalks will also be bituminous. The site has municipal water. The water comes in from the north here. There's a water line that runs from Morse Street cross-country over to Spring Street, and where it currently serves the site. The site has municipal water. We've had discussions with the water department, the DPW, and what they would like us to do is we need to upgrade that water line. It's currently a 6-inch line. We're going to be upgrading it to an 8-inch line. And then what we'll be doing is taking it out to that cross-country line, bringing it through our site, servicing the different houses, hydrants, et cetera. It's going to go under the bridge, actually under the river, back out to Morse Street and hook back in to an 8-inch line that's out there. So it's an improvement to the water system of the town. It creates, it doesn't minimize, but it eliminates a dead end. That's one of the improvements that is necessary from an engineering point of view and at the request of the town. All of the 4 units buildings will have sprinklers. According to building code, the 2-unit buildings will not. The site has sewer, which is unusual. In town, usually you have to go and find it. But in this particular case, there's a sewer line that runs down Moore Street and it ties into Mansfield. So what we'll be doing is our plan is to tie into the manhole that's at the intersection of the driveway. And on Moore Street, we'll be using a low-pressure sewer system. Probably doesn't mean much to you, but what it means is every building has its own little grinder pump, and will tie into a main line, which in itself is only a couple of inches, ties into the main out on the street. And that's similar to the one that was built and is currently being used down on Quarry Lane off of Community Way. That was another comprehensive permit. The stormwater is going to be managed through several different ways. We try to use low-impact development elements when we're doing design. It's something that the town asks engineers and developers to do, and we've integrated that into this. And again, it's a preliminary analysis or preliminary design. So I'm gonna move here now. And I know that's hard to see, but this area here, which is the area between the 4 units that Jeremy was pointing out, we'll be putting underneath there an underground drain system. It won't be above ground, it will be below ground. And then down in this area here, is where there's a green, and in front of that gazebo type structure, that will be another system in that particular area there. And we've done preliminary sizing for that type of thing based on the soil testing we've done. So we know what the soil permeability is, and we know what the groundwater is, and we can fit in those particular areas. Each of those buildings has a roof and has a gutter system, just like probably most of your homes, my home. And what we'll do is we'll tie all of those roofs into a separate drain system that will tie into those underground drains, and that will infiltrate. Why is that important? Well, when you're talking about stormwater in Massachusetts, they consider roof runoff from these type of roofs to be clean. It's not dirty runoff coming off a driveway or a parking lot or a road. So we're separating that and running it separately into it. But in addition to that, we also have a decent amount of driveways to deal with. So that will be served by a normal catch basin drain manhole system that you see in roadways. Where, again, another low-impact development element we've been using that we've been successful with in Foxborough and other communities is tree box filters. Those, you get a lot of bang for the buck there. They're relatively easy to maintain, and they clean the water to a much higher level than is necessary. So we'll be using low-impact development elements to deal with the storm water. We have to file with the Conservation Commission as the agents for the state under the State Wetlands Protection Act. So we will be doing that, and we have to go before them. They have some elements that we have to deal with as well. And finally, the last thing, this site lies within a site of where it's endangered species, and it has been thus for many years, even back in 2007 and 8 when Mr. Saig permitted a commercial facility here. And we received a permit back then for it, but because this is a different project. So we have to go back in and modify that and show them what's happening here. So that is a separate state permit that will have to file to once we're finished with the town. And I think that concludes my presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else?
Open the floor to any questions that you might have.
So, let me start. So a Greek philosopher, Heraclitus, once said that a man can only step in a river once. I don't think that's the issue before the DEP, but I wonder if you can give us a little bit more information about what that's about.
Sure.
How would an adverse ruling from DEP affect you?
Yes. So, yes.
Do you really expect something in 2 weeks?
Well, by statute, they're supposed to do it within 70 days. But since there's no penalty, they never meet the 70 days. So.
Bob Bodie was telling us something else that we waited for a year. So
1 year. That was COVID. That was the excuse. But be that as it may, we met with the DEP evaluator. I don't know what the correct term is, but the DEP agent, did a site walk with him, filed all the documentation, and he asked us to have if anybody wanted to submit any additional documentation. I think we had until yesterday. Yesterday was the day. We didn't file any additional documentation. I assume the appealee didn't file it because they were supposed to send it to us as well, so we haven't seen anything. The issue is, there's no issue with the wetlands per se. It's the question of where does the river start? So our position is that the river starts, or ends actually, at the bridge, because it's coming from the north. Mm-hmm. At the bridge, it turns into the lake, and it turns back into a river again when it gets on the other side of the Morse St and exits. So the appeal was that it does not end there, that it ends somewhere between there, which is the bridge, and out here. So how would that impact the project? Under the Wetlands Protection Act, not the local bylaw, it's called riverfront area. And so anything within 200 feet of a riverfront area, which is measured perpendicular to the river. So it would go something like this. If it was out here, it would go something like this and like that, 200 feet. And it would impact maybe, let's say worst case scenario right here, from my position, worst case scenario. So it would maybe impact these 3 buildings.
And how many units is that?
2, 2, and 4. And so that would be 8. If it was completely impacted. But when I say impact, it doesn't mean it goes away. It just means that when you're dealing in the riverfront area, there's certain limitations of certain performance standards that you have to meet. So if it were changed, then we would have to relook at the design in that particular area and decide how we wanted to do it in order to meet the new riverfront area and the riverfront standards. So that's really I think the crux of the matter, and that's what will be the major decision the gentleman makes.
Okay. Any other questions from here? Kim?
No.
Kurt?
Nothing now.
Lorraine?
No, thank you.
Paige? Any questions?
No, sir, not right now.
Okay. Judy, do you have any questions?
Not at this time, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay. And Dylan, do you have any questions at this time?
Nope, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay. And again, we'll be going into this in hopefully much greater detail. So, Bill, anything else from your side at this point?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. We've received written correspondence from various town boards, committees, officials. We're required by the state regulations to notify other boards, committees, what have you, of the town within 7 days of having received an application. And I think Diana got it out. We got the application in on a Friday, I believe, and Diana sent that initial email out on Monday, and I think she's done it 2 or 3 times since then. So I'm not going to read this verbatim. I don't have enough voice, number one. We don't have enough time, number two. I will summarize some of it.
All of those comment letters from the departments have been put on the website.
Okay, so there you go. They're all on the website. What I'm going to ask the board to do is to approve a motion to enter into the record what I'm going to summarize and to waive the reading of that material. And again, it's on the website. It's available for anybody to see. If you guys want copies directly, let us know. We can email that to you.
It was sent to us.
It was sent?
They were sent.
Oh, they have it?
Yeah, I sent them all the comments also.
Okay. So someone want to make a actually, let me tell you what I've got. No, make the motion first, please, to enter into the record.
These are the department comments.
Yeah, the department comments. Let me say at this point who we've got from, who we've heard from, and then I will summarize it after the motion. So we have a letter dated June 28, 2022 from the Board of Selectmen, signed by Leah Gibson, the chair. A memo dated June 30, 2022 from Paige Duncan, the Director of Land Use and Economic Development. A memo dated June 30, 2022 from Lance Del Priore, the Town Engineer at the Department of Public Works. A memo dated June 27, 2022 from Jane Sears Pierce, the Conservation Agent. Diana had a phone call from Police Chief Grace on June 27th with some comments. We've received an email from Matt Brennan from the Board of Health, from the Health Department, dated June 27th, and an email dated June 24 from William Yukna, the School Business Administrator, and an email dated June 23rd, 2022 from Bob Worthley, who is the Water Department?
Water Superintendent.
Superintendent? Okay. So those are the communications we've received in writing. I think the only one we're waiting for is from the Fire Department, correct?
Fire and building, if they have anything, because Scott was on vacation.
Yeah, well, Mr. Shippey will be here in the future, so I'm sure he'll have plenty to say. So I would like a motion to enter this correspondence into the record and to waive the reading. And again, I'll summarize some of the salient points.
Yeah, so I make a motion that we enter into the record Department comments from the Board of Selectmen, from Paige Duncan, from the town engineer at DPW, from the conservation agent, from the police chief, from the health department, from the school department, and from the water superintendent.
Second?
Okay, all in favor? Okay, so let me summarize. This is the communication from the Board of Selectmen, again, but from Leah Gibson, and she indicated that the Foxborough Board of Selectmen voted 4-1 with Selectman McGowan opposed to sign on to the 119 Morse Street LAP project with the following conditions comments. Number one, the BOS, Board of Selectmen, is not endorsing the number of units, 52, shown in the preliminary site plan. The number of units proposed for this project still seems excessive. I'm going to get back to that shortly. Number two, the Water Department has indicated a need for water line upgrades and looping. This board is encouraged to seek input from the Water Department as the appropriate approach to ensure adequate water supply. Three, we should seek input from Department of Public Works on whether the sewer line to the site has adequate capacity. Four, the Board of Selectmen is concerned about the width of the existing bridge leading to the site. Five, the board should seek input from the DPW to determine if the project will meet or exceed local stormwater guidelines. Six, the ZBA should evaluate the need for a sidewalk within and outside the development. Seven, let me read this verbatim. During the BOS discussion of this project, issues around possible contamination on the project site and or adjacent to the site were raised. The BOS recommends that the ZBA explore the validity of these environmental concerns to determine if the site will yield a healthy, safe, and desirable environment in which future residents will live. And 8, the Board of Selectmen requests that all town operating departments be consulted as part of the ZBA's review, which again we've done. So again, the majority of the Board of Selectmen voted in favor of the project because they felt it helps to address a major policy concern of the town by producing more affordable housing options for residents of all ages. The one dissenting member of the board objected, and that was Selectman Stephanie McGowan, objected to the project because she felt that there was no need to further increase the town's percentage of affordable units. And she made note to the fact that there were other affordable developments that are already planned for Foxborough. I want to go back to the first point where the board said it's not endorsing the number of units on the preliminary plan. And I want to raise a couple of rhetorical questions, although these will be questions that we'll need to decide as we go along. And that's how many units is proper? How many units is appropriate? Obviously, if we decide the answer is 0, we deny the application. But hypothetically speaking, if we are to approve an application, what between 1 and 52 is appropriate? And related to that, what's the basis for that decision? What's the basis for our reasoning why a specific number is appropriate? So I'm asking that rhetorically today, but that's something that we will need to decide as we proceed. So if Paige will let me summarize her memorandum, she indicated below are my comments on the plans filed in support of the comprehensive permit application. 1, the affordable units should be affordable in perpetuity. 2, the initial and continuing affordability of subsidized units should be guaranteed through agreements with regard to purchase and condominium fees and through resale restrictions. 3, the ZBA should require local preference for up to 70% of the affordable units. 4, the affordable units should not be distinguishable from the market rate units, and they should be dispersed throughout the site. 5, the applicant should be required to notify the Department of Land Use and Economic Development, that's Paige's department, when building permits are issued and cooperate with the preparation of request forms to add the units to the town's subsidized housing inventory. 6, if more than one phase is proposed, as far as construction, a phasing plan should be provided. 7, if approved before the applicant begins any construction, Applicant must submit to the ZBA a final set of comprehensive permit site plans, calculations, and related documentation for technical peer review by the ZBA and/or their consulting engineer. And 8, a construction management plan, if approved, a construction management plan that incorporates any changes requested during the approval process should be prepared and filed with the ZBA, the Land Use Department, and the Building Commissioner. Mr. Del Priore's memo indicated he has the following comments, and again, I'm just summarizing. He says EP, which I think is Environmental Partners, recommends that the developer perform a fire flow test in the vicinity of the development to confirm model simulation results. 2, each unit will need their own service line, shutoff valve, and meter. Fire sprinkler services will also need to be metered. 3, the town's recently enacted stormwater bylaws should be followed to the maximum extent possible. 4, this has to do with the sewer, required an increase in pipe size to accommodate additional flow. 5, the bridge, I'm going to read this verbatim. The existing bridge measures 15 feet in width. This is insufficient for 2 vehicles to pass safely. The fire department and planning board has been holding a minimum width of 18 feet for all shared driveway submittals. This should be no different. If the span over the stream is 10 feet or greater, it will require review by a structural engineer. And finally, roads shall remain private. Jane Pierce indicated, as Mr. Buckley indicated, that because this project differs from what happened in 2008, they'll need to go before the state. I think it's the Department of Fisheries and Wildlife. Also indicated the applicant must file a notice of intent and obtain an order of conditions from the Conservation Commission pursuant to 310 CMR 10. She also indicated that the proposed water line should be connected from the line on Morse Street and not enlarged or expanded through the town's Rumford River Conservation Area property. She also indicated that the northern wetland just off the site is a certifiable vernal pool. And she has stated that although 40B projects allow relief from local bylaws, their review doesn't change state regulations, which we know. Police Chief Grace said that given the project is proposed as ownership condominium, the developer may want to consider restricting future rental of units through the homeowners association documents. And number 2, question whether the project would include public access to proposed trails connecting to open space. Let's see. Matt Brennan from the Health Department said the Health Department has no objections to the proposed project. The developer has provided a Phase 1 site assessment that states that soil contamination is not a concern at the property. If something unusual isn't covered during excavation, I would recommend seeking the help of a licensed site professional. And he stated that there are no concerns with water or septic because of service by town water and sewer. If a dumpster is provided, it should be placed on a hard surface to deter rodents. School department is concerned about a safe bus stop for any children that may reside in the development. And Mr. Yukna had he sort of reminded us that we didn't include one on one of our former projects, so shame on us. I know we included it on the Sylvan, but apparently we didn't do it on Highland Ridge. Shame on us. And finally, Mr. Worthley also talked about separate meters being required for each unit. So those are again, everything is on the website. It's all part of the record. There's a little bit more detail, or maybe a lot more detail than what I read. Obviously, it's something, these are thoughts that we'll consider, and I hope you will as well. Where are we time-wise? We do have some administrative responsibilities before we close tonight, so I don't want to go any later than, say, around 10 of 10 before we get to that. We've received a lot of communication, a lot of written communication from the public. Most of this came before the application was filed. In fact, only 2 items have come since then. Most of it was directed to the building commissioner, please provide to the zoning board of appeals. I discussed with the town clerk how to handle that, and we agreed that all of that communication should be included in the record. And I want to say all that communication, I'm talking specifically about the communication that came in prior to the application being filed. It'll take much too long to read all of this verbatim. I think it's appropriate for me to indicate the individuals who communicated to us. And once that is done, I'm going to ask for a motion to enter into the record all of these emails and letters. We're going to waive the reading. I'm thinking what I'll do is to try to summarize these individually at our next meeting. But at that point, but once we have done that, I want to give the public 20 to 30 minutes to comment. I think it's more important to hear you in person tonight than for us to read until 11 o'clock or what have you. So in chronological order, we received communication from Lisa Pereira, from Anne Marie Anderson, from Kathy and Carl Vandenboom, from Andrea Pollock, from John Thompson, from Barbara Passini, and I apologize if it's mispronounced, from Milton Snow, from Terry Howe, from Mark Powers, from Michael and Kelly Ryan, from Mark Lamson, again from Lisa Pereira, just making sure that I got the first one, from Bruce Bowden, from Joan Gallivan, and Joan contacted me again yesterday, from Jenny Mayhew, from Lisa Duncan, again from Lisa Duncan. All of that was prior to the application having been filed. Since the application was filed, we received a communication from Joyce Imbarrow, and today from Attorney Drew Hoyt. So again, what I'd like to do is to have a motion to enter each of these into the record and to waive the reading for this evening.
I motion that we enter into the record all correspondence received from citizens and to waive the reading.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? So again, for the next, say, up until about 10 of 10, if anybody would like to be heard, we would like to hear from you. And again, I'll just reiterate, tell us who you are, tell us where you live, please be succinct. And again, please be civil, courteous, and once again, a little humor is appreciated.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a quick comment while I assume they're going to queue up to take their turn? I just simply want to say, I've been involved with a number of 40B projects. I think oftentimes there's too much emphasis on the affordable units and not enough thought given to the fact that all of the units being provided, I think, are a benefit to the town. These are a size and scale that are not typical for new for sale units. So I think all of the units provide a benefit to the community. Just something I wanted to state, because again, sometimes I think the focus gets too much on the affordability component, when in fact all 52 units I think are of benefit. So.
I mean, the reason you are here is because you're filing under the comprehensive permit regulations and statute, but we also have to look at this as a development. Notwithstanding the fact you wouldn't be here otherwise, we just need to look at it from the perspective of what does it provide to the town and what doesn't it, and consider the pros and cons. So again, anybody in the public who wishes to be heard? Yes? And I think I need to have you at the podium in order for Paul to hear.
You can put it up there, right?
They can come sit over here, Barney. There's.
Okay, the microphone. And again, I'm just going to remind you, we have a lot more to do, so you'll have a lot more opportunity.
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Not tonight, no.
Don't be intimidated by the book. It's
just I'm going to be trying to pull a lot of information. So first I want to thank you all for your disclosures. I really appreciate that, being upfront with that. And I want to thank you for taking into consideration all of those emails that came in prior to the meeting, because I know that's not required. So I want to thank you for those. So my name is Kathy Vandenboom. I live at 109 Morse Street. And the first topic I want to address is the idea of the regional need. So if we approve this friendly 40B, and we cite regional need as the reason behind it, because we are at the 12.8%, where does it end? So every piece of farmland that is sold in Foxborough could be bought by a developer, and the developer could cite the regional need. So Foxborough could become the town where all of the developers want to come to buy a piece of land, get a friendly 40B, and develop that land under regional need. So in the guidelines for the Zoning Board of Appeals for 40B, it says 40B places all communities on the same playing field when it comes to regulating housing for lower moderate income housing. Well, if we are always citing regional need as the need for the housing, then Foxborough will end up having all of the 40Bs, and the other towns may choose not to. And I'm not here to ask you today to claim safe harbor just because you can. I want to show you why you should. The Mass Housing has denied very similar projects to this one in towns below 10% in the very same region, Norfolk County. On the mass.gov website, they provide a link to the denial of the Sawmill Pond Village in Easton. This is important because it highlights that even the state, being on the mass.gov website, is falling out of favor for 40B for the more favorable smart growth districts, or 40R. The Sawmill Village in Easton was denied a project eligibility letter by Mass Housing. The proposal was to build 36 affordable home ownership units on 13 acres, so similar to the 52 we have here on 6 acres, home ownership. The project was located within 2 areas of critical environmental concern, bordering vegetated wetlands and riparian zones. I had to look that up. That's rivers and ponds. So same situation here. It was between the Canoe River Aquifer area and the Hockomock Swamp. The proposal was denied for 2 reasons. Reason 1, despite the site's relatively close proximity to commercial districts, there's no safe means to accommodate pedestrian trips to and from the proposed development. I'm going to say that is very similar to this development. It has been thought to be a great idea because it's close to the Mansfield train station, and that these residents could walk to the train station. You cannot walk to the train station. You do not want 104 people in 52 units walking down the causeway. It has no sidewalks. Everybody seems to be concerned with the sidewalks from the development to the Burrell School. I'm concerned with the sidewalks that were interested in this area because it's close to a train station, but we have no means for those people to get to the train station safely. Reason 2 for this project. Easton has approved a smart growth overlay zoning district under 40R, permitting 158 units of housing, and they recently permitted 113 units with the Shovelworks development. We have 250 units at Walnut Street that are in the works for senior housing. That's very similar to what this town had going for them. They go on to say that taken together, these municipal actions demonstrate that the town made measurable progress in creating opportunities for affordable housing that address the purpose of Chapter 40B. They go on to say, we do not focus our analysis upon any one factor in isolation. We look at the site as a whole and all the other factors, such as municipal actions, and ask ourselves whether, after considering everything, the development of a site would advance the affordable housing policy that our agency was created to support. And we cannot make that conclusion in favor of this site. It is not this site, but it is a very similar site, in a very similar situation, in a very similar town. The next similar example is from the town of Reading. I pulled this article from the Mass Housing blog. It's called A Road Less Traveled. The proposal was to build 20 new affordable housing ownership units on 2.16 acres. So again, similar, 20 acres on 2.16 acres. We're talking about 52 units on 6 acres. There were 2 reasons Mass Housing rejected this proposal. Reason number 1, Reading has made good faith efforts to increase its affordable housing stock, most notably by approving 2 smart growth overlay districts under Chapter 40R, permitting 458 units. The town of Reading has a population of 88,000. Foxborough's, 16, 17,000? So our 250 units on Walnut Street alone are very comparable. Reason number 2, the parcel of land already included 2 existing homes that fit in well with the pattern of development in the surrounding neighborhood. To deconstruct this well-established neighborhood and replace the existing homes with 20 new units of housing, especially in the context of a constrained site plan, was, in our opinion, ill-advised. There is a home, a beautiful home that you saw on this property. There's a way, simply sell the home to increase the housing stock or use the home. They conclude that to be sure, there is still a great need for affordable housing, but the Reading case illustrates that there are situations where a new Chapter 40B development is not the best choice, especially where local officials have already shown a strong commitment to affordable housing through channels other than 40B. In an article entitled 2 Easton Housing Projects Generate $1.8 million in Mitigation Funds for the Town, we learned that the Sawmill project came before the town again. This is the town of Easton, a 44-unit residential subdivision, this time on 20.8 acres instead of 13, and further away from the wetlands. The developer pledged to donate $1.2 million over 5 years to fund supporting ongoing operational costs of the fire department and health and community services department. Additional funds were donated for the DPW and public safety facility, a traffic light, and roadway improvements for the entire Foundry Street corridor, including the start of sidewalks. This was the result of 2 developments, one for 100 units in an existing building, and one for the 44 units on these 20 acres. Additionally, Reading and Easton are among the 31 communities that received $5 million under the Housing Choice Initiative and now are compliant with MBTA communities' zoning requirements, according to an article published by the MMA. And the last article I want to cite just quickly is that the Natick received $800,000 to boost their Natick High School project from 138 apartments and 12 townhouses. They were ecstatic. They didn't even think that they would get it. They applied. The money was out there. We can't go back, but we can go forward in a way that makes sense and maximizes our incentives for producing housing. In the case above, the 40B was rejected largely because the towns had made considerable efforts toward the goal of affordable housing. We have made outstanding strides toward increasing our affordable housing. Even CHAPA, a group established to encourage housing production, says yes, Foxborough has made the strides. Dana, and I don't have her last name, she's our CHAPA representative here in Foxborough that was helping us with our housing production plan. She writes, since the conversation on housing began, the housing situation in Foxborough has changed significantly. We believe the action items occurring now will lead towards significant housing production over the next 5 years. It is worth noting that meaningful developments in affordable housing have occurred since the housing production plan was drafted. These developments and their potential impact on Foxborough's affordable housing and housing in general are summarized below. Number 1, of course, the housing choice. Are you all familiar with the Housing Choice Initiative? I don't know. Is Paige here if she wants to talk about it, but in case I mess it up, or Judy. Basically, the state used to incentivize the towns to adopt 40R zoning, which is what they call housing initiative, housing choice initiative. Recently, they've drafted some guidelines that they're no longer going to wait anymore. It's no longer a carrot, it's a hammer. And they have said, you know what, that's it, Foxborough, you have to zone, not build, but zone for 768 houses. 768, 10% of our housing stock. And we're lucky. We got by because we have a train station. If you have a train station, you're actually supposed to zone for 25%. And they're not counting the Foxborough station because it's not fully operational. So we don't have to worry about 40B anymore. I mean, every town that's doing this is, of course, making some of those units need to be affordable. You wouldn't do it otherwise, right? So 768 and 25% we make affordable, this is not a worry anymore. And the housing stock is there. And this is a law. It's not a choice. And so instead of incentivizing with all of these $5 million grants that they were giving, now they're saying, you're not, if you don't do this, first of all, it's a loss, you have to. But some towns are saying, we don't want to do it. Well, you lose the existing grants that you have, and we need those grants. We use those grants. So that's the reason, number one, that Dana cites. Number two, Walnut Street, 250 houses. And let's not underestimate the value of that. Not only are you building 250 houses for seniors at an affordable rate, but if 250 seniors in Foxborough or the region move out of their houses because they now have a place to go locally, you just opened up 250 probably moderate houses for people to live in. Other families, young families, can now buy homes for $450,000, $500,000, homes with the character that the town that they're looking at, including Foxborough, already have, without building and adding traffic or safety issues, water issues, all of this. It's existing. So thank you to the people of Walnut Street, wherever you are, for accepting and approving that project, because that is amazing. It's amazing that we have that. And again, Dana cites that as an example. She also talks about 17 Centennial Street and Market Street, which she said were going to be torn down and turned into a duplex. But Bill, we're doing something bigger there, aren't we?
You need to talk to the board.
Sorry. Can you ask Bill if we're doing something bigger there?
Not tonight.
Okay, I think we're doing like 100 houses.
Okay, now, again, just be wary of time.
Okay, I'll talk to him. Okay, yep. And then there's also the auditorium at the Foxborough State Hospital and the Pratt School that they're looking at. So Dana says, the chapel, that we are all set, that we are in good shape. We don't have to look at this for 5 years anyway. So how did we get here? You want to read this?
Sure. For the sake of time, my name's Carl Vandenboom, husband of Kathy. So, how did we get here? How did we get to this point right now that we're here tonight? Why are we sitting here with a 40B proposal that has a list of waivers the size of my arm with no mitigation steps? Considering this environmentally sensitive area, also polluted, that from an access point, it's basically an island. You got one road in, you got one road out. You got water, bordering roughly half of the site, wetlands the other side, and a little bit of conservation area on both corners. Mr. Saig applied for a friendly 40B, but clearly misunderstood this assignment. The friendly was what he was supposed to bring to the table, not what the town was supposed to provide to him. He did not follow the advice of the LIP program and meet with neighbors to hear the concerns as advised, nor did he meet with the conversation on housing group, which is also suggested in the LIP guidelines. And he instead he hired a large team to do the work for him.
And he's not here tonight. I mean, I know he is on Zoom.
And that's fine.
He's entitled to be on Zoom.
I do want to point out, he's not here tonight.
No, he's entitled to be on Zoom, though. I mean,
No, absolutely. Yep.
But it does.
Go ahead.
It would hold more credence to
We're here.
speak to him. But.
We are here, although we have other plans.
He hired a very well-known 40B consultant, Mr. Engler, but interestingly, when it came time to present the project to the planning board, rather than bring in Mr. Engler, he hired longtime building commissioner Bill Casparo. I think this is at that time, he brought in Bill Casparo to ask the board to endorse this project. While he was telling the board what would happen and what our options would be if we accepted or rejected the application, Tracy Vassil spoke up and said, wait a minute, Bill, who is the we you're referencing? And Bill stated it's the town. So he's representing the developer. While Bill has recently provided consulting for the town, make no mistake about it, Bill is representing the client, not the town. I just hope this was not the intention of the applicant to use Bill's reputation with the town to his advantage. We all know him. We love you, Bill, and I say that in honesty. I know you personally. I know you're a great guy. This can all be like brought up later on. Yeah, you can take over for now.
So, again, how did we get here? And I know you did this, I know he did the disclosure, but at the time, the disclosure was not there. At the time of the planning board, it was not there, because I did ask the town clerk.
You mean the Board of Selectmen?
Board of Select, no, planning board. He went before the planning board.
That was an informal meeting.
It was on TV.
Anyhow.
Anyhow, so the planning board is asked to vote on the project, with most members voicing that they don't understand why they're voting. Paige guides them with a list of questions, to which Tracy asks, "Where did you get these questions?" Paige proudly replies, "They are Paige originals." Tracy replies, "But they're written in a way that the only way to answer this is yes." So the board votes anyway, 4 in favor and 1 abstains, and certainly a less than enthusiastic vote on the project, the 30,000 feet in the air. And the letter that they provide is even less, it's not very committal. It's in general, we would support something of this type.
Yeah, no details at that time.
With the planning board done, we're off to the BOS, despite a very concerning environmental report that generated considerable attention from the town attorney. The additional creditable concerns voiced by McGowan, the board still feels confident they can vote and just read the conditions that Paige and Mr. Keegan had prepared for them in advance in case they were so inclined to vote. No further discussion is granted. McGowan votes no, and the four others vote yes. 1 member did not speak the entire meeting. From there, we're off to conservation. Despite very creditable evidence from the abutter, us, and what the commission sees with their own eyes, a river, Bill Buckley pressures the board to compromise and to vote to move this along. But what Bill fails to mention is the project had not even received a project eligibility letter. The commission was not holding the project up. The board hastily votes in a baseless compromise and apparently forgot they were supposed to sign it in public or something. I don't know what happened, to be honest, but I was told that the public hearing was continued. A lot of people came out, but then we were told that it wasn't a public hearing, so we couldn't speak, so we just quietly watched them sign the ANRAD. Ironically, Mr. St had missed the deadline to file the ANRAD or ORAD, whatever it is, anyway. The deadline was 10 days from the public meeting to submit the ANRAD. The ANRAD could not be sent until the 11th day. However, yet another exception was made for the developer in this friendly 40B. Immediately after signing, Mr. Caspara came in to hand deliver the ANRAD to Mr. Keegan so that it could be signed that night. The report is not sent to the DEP until the following day.
Can I?
Yeah.
As I said, it's getting late. I'm sure there are other people that would
I just think it's important to know how this has.
I think.
We're okay. We're enjoying that.
How much more do you got? Because, I mean,
This is
really.
it. I have 2 points and I'm done.
Okay.
I'll read fast.
Thank you.
All right. I won't even go about what happened with the Conservation Commission not inviting us, the conservation agent from the Department of Environmental Protection forgetting to invite us to the meeting that they had, or forgetting to tell us the meeting did not exist. Anyway, this weekend, June 25th, I get a call from a friend saying, I guess the meeting's not happening until July. No, there's no agenda posted on the ZBA website, and the meetings are held the 3rd Thursday of the month. I contact Diana on Monday morning to ask her to post this agenda. When moving a meeting from the 3rd to the 5th Thursday of the month for the first time in a year, the least the town could have done to ensure some transparency is to post the meeting agenda in a timely fashion. Additionally, for comprehensive permits, public hearings need to be posted 14 days in advance. It was posted in the newspaper, which is the law by MGL, because that's what we did back then. But by and large, people go to websites now. You want to know if there's a planning board meeting, you go to the planning board website. I did call the town clerk, and he said it's on the calendar. I didn't know to go there. And neither did my friend, who said, hey, you're not up until July. So you have...
We thought we had a couple more weeks to prepare, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so anyway, you have the ability to safe harbor this. I know you're all on the Economic Development Committee together, and you would like to potentially like to see Mike's project go through. But this is not a friendly 40B. I don't know what you call it, except a developer-friendly project. This is an abuse of the 40B statute, and this board should recognize, just as Mass Housing did, that there are situations where a new Chapter 40B development is not the best choice, even when the regional need for affordable housing exists. Thank you.
I'm just going to make a couple of comments. First of all, Morse Street will be our project whenever it comes to light. Second, I know it's important to you to tell us the history, but frankly, as Harry Truman said, the buck stops here. And I'm not ready to go down memory lane. What I want to know is what this project provides and what the pros and the cons are. I don't think it is relevant at all to give us the history. I don't want to criticize. You're entitled to your opinion, and I'm entitled to mine. As far as I'm concerned, every town official, whether it's Diana or Paige or whomever, is doing his or her job to the best of that person's ability. As far as I'm concerned, every town committee, whether it's the Conservation Commission or the Planning Board or otherwise, they're residents of this town, they're volunteering their own time, they're doing their respective jobs to the best of their ability. I don't want to hear criticism of what they did before. If you don't like what we are doing, I'll welcome that criticism. Does anybody else want to be heard tonight? Yes.
Hi, my name's Anne-Marie Anderson, 18 Spring Street, and I want to thank everybody who's here, all the volunteers on the board, for trying to do our best for our town. I just have very basic, simple concerns. I think it's a lot of units to put in one little tiny spot. Obviously, there's environmental concerns, but I'll just be very honest. I'm a mom of 5 kids. I grew up in this town. I just always loved riding my bike around town. Kathy rode our bikes around. And I just can't stand the idea of my kids riding down Spring Street and Morse Street on those windy little roads with no sidewalks and all these more people there, obviously I'm very concerned about affordable housing. I mean, we're in a very modest house. I think most of us in these neighborhoods are. We're not in these, I'm not in some big McMansion in a cul-de-sac where my kids can just ride around all day. All we have is Spring Street. My kids, to get outside and not be on their computers or whatever, they're going down these little roads, and we don't have, that's what they can do. And the idea of 104 more vehicles down there and where it's located and the routes they're going to take to get to 95, they're just windy little roads with no sidewalks for the most part. Morse Street, no sidewalk, that way, for a distance at least that way. Spring Street, as soon as you hit a little bit past the County Street cutoff, there's no sidewalks, it's all windy roads. I don't know what kids are supposed to do anymore. If they can't even ride their bikes around town because of increased traffic, I just feel like it's a safety concern. So I'm just speaking mostly just as a mom and just saying, if anything, maybe just cut it back, significantly. 52 units on that tiny little 6-acre spot. It's just common. That's ridiculous. I'm sorry. I know it's my opinion. Maybe I shouldn't say that. It just seems a little much. So that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Barney, there's someone on Zoom who
Yeah.
wishes to speak.
Joan?
No, Paula Feeney.
I'm sorry?
Paula Feeney has her hand raised on Zoom.
Okay, can Paula Feeney hear us?
Yes, I can. This is Paula Feeney. I live at 36 Alden Street. I grew up on Adams Street, so I've lived in this area my whole life. And my concern is, as they mentioned before, there are no sidewalks, 104 more cars. Has a traffic study been done to show the number of cars that go up and down that street and what the impact would be of those 104 cars, additional cars or more cars, depending on how many people live in each unit?
A traffic study has been done. It was submitted together with the application. It's on the website. That's an issue that we'll be discussing at a later meeting in detail.
Because, right, when I grew up in this neighborhood, as I mentioned, so when you leave my neighborhood and you go to take the left onto Cocasset Street, sometimes you have to sit there for a couple of minutes before you can take that left. What's going to happen when you add all that additional traffic? It's going to, that wasn't when I was a kid. You just came out and took a left, not a problem. You add more people, more cars, more housing, it's going to be more traffic. People already fly through this neighborhood as it is. Never mention onto Cocasset Street. So, as the other people have mentioned, it seems like a lot of housing in a very small spot, especially that little tiny bridge. And, with the environmental issues. I know when that house was originally listed, when I believe he bought it, I know there was some environmental issues with the ground because it used to be a gas station or oil station back there. I don't know if that's been addressed either.
Are you asking me a question?
Yes, I'm asking, has it been addressed? Because I know
Okay,
when that
one
property
of
was
the-
purchased about the oil.
One of the
that's on
evenings that
property.
we will subsequently consider the application will be devoted entirely, and if we have to go more, we'll go more to environmental issues.
Joan Gallivan also would like to
Yeah, I see, Joan. Ms. Feeney, you have more to say?
Yep, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Joan?
Hello, I'm on the Zoom here. Joan Gallivan, 9 Cannon Forge Drive in Foxborough. And I had submitted a letter and had a lot of issues that I have raised regarding this site. I also was on the housing committee looking and searching and trying to get more affordable housing into this town. And I've worked on those committees for a couple of years. I thought making positive input to that. And there was a study done. And I think at the end of the study, it was brought up to the attention of all of us that there are a number of projects that are coming up that are going to address this. And then on top of that, without even being one of the items that was listed, is that new law that's going to be, well, it's a new law that all the towns have to provide a certain amount of affordable housing on top of the projects that we have already, as I say, in the last couple of years, have come to pass, which we didn't even know were going to happen. I'm going to comment later on some of the meetings because I do have concerns in many other areas. So I am very much in favor of having more affordable housing in town. But I think the site that has been chosen, no matter what you put on that site, I'm sorry to say, I believe they're going to be big issues that have to be addressed here. And I think it's not a good site for much of anything because of the land surrounded by water, the environmental impacts, the access to the area, a number of things. And I also want to remind you that this was supposedly a friendly 40B. It should be friendly to the town, not, again, to the developer. And I don't think we've really looked out for all the neighborhood people and that area of town and looked at how this is going to impact in that area. That, and said, only 6 acres, you know, some towns you need an acre for a house, for one house, and, or a half acre. I live on a half acre myself, and there's many, many homes in town that were built on a half acre. So this is really outlandish that we would even consider 50 units on that land. And I think anything that's going to be put in there would be somewhat of a problem. I'd like to see at least something much smaller and more reasonable. So just commenting a little bit now, I would like to be able to come back on another meeting and speak. Thank you.
Thank you. I think what I'd like to do now is set a schedule for the future. First thing would be schedule a site walk. Are you working at home these days? Or?
I am.
Okay, and Lorraine, you have to go to Worcester much or what?
Depends.
Depends, okay,
Yeah,
so.
Sure, as long as I have some notice, I can rearrange schedule.
Like I said, we can do it on a weekday. What's good? And who would be there? You and Bill, or?
Most likely, yes.
Okay, and I'd like to do it before the July meeting, which is the 21st?
First.
Yeah.
We'll make ourselves available. If you could give us a couple dates, and we'll
Let's figure it out right now.
just have it.
If we could do the week of the 11th, that would work best for me, sometime during that week.
Week of the 11th.
That would work for me as well.
Except for that Friday.
Oh, that was the one day I could make it.
Really?
No.
Can you do the 11th in the afternoon?
I could do that Friday morning.
I mean, if we set on something, I'll make sure I'm available. Towards the middle of the week, like on Wednesday?
13th,
Yeah. Morning, afternoon, good for?
Either way is good for me. Fine.
Afternoon?
I can make myself available.
I'm just not available on the 12th in the morning.
So what, you want to do Wednesday, the 13th in the afternoon?
Sure.
What time?
Whatever works for you, 1
2
o'clock?
o'clock?
2 o'clock?
Okay.
1 o'clock?
I'm sorry?
1 o'clock, did you say?
2.
2?
Yep.
All right.
A site walk is just that. It gives us an opportunity, it's like a reconnaissance mission. It gives us an opportunity to see what the site is like. Public is entitled to come along. We do not debate. We do not make any decisions. It's really just to look at the site. And Diana, you'll be posting it, right? Okay. So
Is that open to the public?
I'm sorry?
Is that open to the public?
Yeah.
So anybody can show up for that?
Anybody can show up. And
Can I
again,
just
we're not
say,
going to
in
make any
regards to-
decisions, we're
can I-
not going to be involved in any, discussion. It's just for Mrs. Buckley and Casbara to show us what the site looks like.
Can I just say in regards to postings, the legal, it's 48 hours that things have to, all meetings have to be posted 48 hours before the meetings. So this wouldn't be posted until that
Diana
week.
knows what needs to be done more than anybody in town, so when something is noticed, it's noticed properly.
That's the technical view, but did you give us a date as to when it's taking place?
For the site walk?
Yeah.
Yeah, July 13,
At what time?
at 2 o'clock. Okay, our next
Can I
meeting,
just ask a very important question?
Yep.
What's the poison ivy situation like there?
There is
Yeah.
some, so I wear long pants.
Poison ivy, okay.
Yeah, I'm
Thank
really
you.
allergic.
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Our next meeting is July 21. What I'd like to do that day is go through the requested waivers and really get down on the land. More Jeremy as far as
Well, with
building.
that said, Jeremy won't be available on the 21st.
Oh, we won't, okay.
So maybe we could do maybe the traffic study?
Yeah, why don't we do traffic and stormwater on 21st?
Traffic and, and the waivers?
Yep.
All right.
And I'll probably summarize the, although we've heard a lot of it, the communications from the public. So waivers, traffic and stormwater on 21st. And our subsequent meeting after that is August 25, and we can do design.
That would be
Building
on
layout.
What date, Mr. Chairman?
August 21.
No, I'm sorry, August
I'm sorry, 25. 25.
Thursday, August 25th.
Yep, 25.
5th, okay.
That's to accommodate Kim's vacation. She's going to Hawaii. But unfortunately, we weren't able to accommodate Lorraine, who's going to Ireland. Our September meeting is the 29th. And that's the night that I want to principally talk about environmental issues. Diana, do we have anything on the 21st besides this?
Of July?
Yeah.
Right now, no.
Okay. So if we have any other item that requires a public hearing, that's going to go before this. If we have no other public hearing, and apparently we have none for July 21, then we're going to commence continuation of this particular matter on July 21, starting at 7:05. I just need to give us 5 minutes for administrative issues. So July 21 at 7:05, other meetings, depending on whether we have anything else. At the end of the September meeting, we'll assess where we are. If we need to go further, we'll probably revert back to our normal meeting night, which is the third Thursday of each month.
Can you mention no other notices will be sent out?
I'm sorry?
No other notices will be sent out?
That's correct. Because we're continuing this, there are no other notices that are sent out. And you don't publish it in a newspaper either, right, as a continued hearing? Okay. But at the end of every session, we'll just indicate, again, what the date of the next session, and ideally the time of the next session. Is there anything I forgot that we should cover? Paige, Bill and Judy, anything that I've forgotten that you want me to cover or think we should cover?
No, I think you did a great job, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'm sure I'll get an email from you tomorrow, tell me otherwise, but.
Well, I would just like to clarify a couple things.
Yep.
Is that in respect to the comments made, CHAPA did say some things like that, but again, the CHAPA effort was actually somewhat of a failure. If you recall, we couldn't even get accessory apartments approved at town meeting. So while there were a lot of efforts made, we haven't necessarily embraced housing here. Walnut Street is not approved. It will be 200 units, but it's going to have to go through this very same process, and it is not yet approved. I'm sure the Walnut Street neighbors are going to feel similarly as the Morse Street neighbors, so I just want to clarify, and that's 200 units on 16 acres. So I understand the concerns of the Morse Street folks, but just understand that they are probably going to have the same concerns. To clarify, there's nothing related to 15 to 17 Market Street or Centennial that has to do with hundreds of units. That's not true. And the MBTA communities requirement, while it is a law, it is something that requires a town meeting vote. And if I'm a betting person, I do not expect it to pass at town meeting. You can see the hearing, the discussion that was held with the selectmen in April. There's a good chance we will not be passing that. Just again, it's 768 units, and none of which are required to be affordable. So I just wanted to clarify a few of the misconceptions out there as to all the housing activities that are going on. Walnut Street is an effort, and if we don't get funding for the signal, that project will not move forward. So whether this board approved it or not in the future, it needs $6 million in infrastructure improvements. We're working our hardest to get it, but there is no guarantee. So I just don't want folks to think that we have all these wonderful things in the offing as to housing and affordable housing. It is a struggle, and honestly, I spent a couple years fighting that fight. I've heard the people. I'm doing my very best, but as far as I'm concerned, much of the conversation on housing is over, and we're moving on to other things. So I just wanted to clarify that that this community has not embraced affordable housing, and we don't have grand plans for it beyond Walnut Street. Thank you.
And just to add to Paige's comment about Walnut Street, the developer hasn't even applied for a project eligibility letter yet. So that is, and for our sake, hopefully months away. If we have nothing else, a motion to continue this hearing to July 21 at 7:05 PM.
I motion that we continue the public hearing to, what do we say, July 21, 7:05.
Second.
Do we need to say pending?
No, Dennis, so,
I don't have anything, and I'm pretty sure today would have been the deadline, because Monday's a holiday, and it would have had to go in the paper next week.
Okay.
So,
okay. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
I move we adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second.